Chapter 1800. The aura of the Origin Ice Soul directly sealed the Hong Meng aura around the wooden house. At the same time, it was wrapped in a dark and cold Hong Meng force as it charged towards Shifeng. At the same time, 9 ice dragons whizzed out from Long Chen's dragon halberd. The reason why he did not condense them at the same time previously was because Long Chen still had some trauma in his heart. Back then, Feng Qingyang had easily destroyed the 9 ice dragons temporarily. This was indeed Long Chen's weakness. This time, he really had to be careful. When he saw that Shifeng was unfamiliar with his Origin Ice Soul Force, he knew that Shifeng was not like Feng Qingyang, who had long been prepared for him. If that was the case, Long Chen would not be able to hide it anymore. 9 dragons rise. Long Chen roared. The Hong Meng force around his body was mixed into the Origin Ice Soul. Accompanied by the aura that charged towards Shifeng previously, Long Chen's body seemed to be pointed by a longsword. The fierce and sharp aura that erupted from his body was truly intimidating. When he saw that Long Chen's attack was so powerful, Shifeng did not hesitate. He immediately retreated a little. During the process, he accumulated some force, after which, the rocks around his body returned to their original position with Shifeng's movement. Immediately, a heart-stirring explosive force vibrated in the air. Godly rock-splitting palm! Boom! Before Shifeng's voice sounded, waves of unceasingly vibrating murderous aura erupted from Shifeng's palms. When the rocks around his body gathered together with this murderous aura, a huge rock appeared at Shifeng's magical location. The rock contained an incomparably strong Hong Meng murderous aura. Once it took shape in the air, it was wrapped in a rich Hong Meng pressure. It swept out waves of sharp and terrifying aura. Under the attentive gazes of the people around the wooden house, it heavily collided with Long Chen and Hong Er's Origin Ice Soul. Clang! 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 The 2 earth-shattering auras collided with each other. Before one could tell which side had the upper hand, the Hong Meng auras that exploded in the air created countless Hong Meng ripples that spread out in the air. When everyone heard this sound, they naturally felt a lot of discomfort in their hearts. When the aftershock of this bombardment swept over their bodies, without exception, everyone took this opportunity to retreat by a large distance. There was no other reason other than the fact that the Hong Meng suppression caused by the collision of the 2 forces was simply too strong. This was the first time the 2 of them faced each other, and they did not hold back at all. From the very beginning, it was a life-and-death battle. In the eyes of those who liked to fight, it was indeed a good show. Next, I will let you know the difference between Hong Meng Yuanjie's 9th layer and Hong Meng Yuanjie's 1st layer. A cold light condensed in Shifeng's eyes, and his expression was slightly ferocious. As his roar sounded, the rocks around him condensed again. At the same time, what caught Long Chen off guard was that, after the collision, the huge rock that Shifeng had condensed from the god of Stone Palm was only controlled by Long Chen's original voice soul essence. The rest of the rock, under the support of the Hong Meng around Shifeng, shattered into pieces in mid-air. It turned out that this was the origin of the god of Stone Palm's name. Such a huge rock that was condensed from Hong Meng's energy had already shattered. The Hong Meng's energy contained within it would become the source of the endless Hong Meng's energy the moment it shattered. The power of the god of Stone Palm had just been revealed. Although it was a little late to react, it was not too late to say anything. Long Chen had the protection of his domain, so he was not afraid of anything. However, Long Mu and the others were watching the battle. They were now focused on the battle, so it was impossible for them to know the subtleties of the god of Stone Palm. If they were careless and fell for Shifeng's trick, then it would be really troublesome. Boom! What surprised Long Chen was not only the subtleties of the god of Stone Palm, but also the Hong Meng's energy on the rock after Shifeng condensed all his energy. The rock that Long Chen had previously locked with the ice soul essence started to loosen at this time. With a muffled sound, Long Chen's ice soul essence completely lost its effect. As for the shattered rocks, each of them carried a huge amount of primordial impact force as they flew toward the bodhisattvas of Long Chen. Seeing this scene, Long Chen relaxed a little. It turned out that Shifeng's target was only him. In this way, Long Chen did not have any worries. It was just some rocks. In Long Chen's opinion, this kind of attack was far inferior to Feng Qingyang's Hongmeng Hurricane. God of Stone Palm, stone shatters the 9 heavens. Shifeng's voice resounded. Previously, he had broken Long Chen's ice soul essence. This time, Shifeng was confident. The endless Hongmeng's energy was contained in the shattered rock. The moment the big rock shattered, it turned into a rain of rocks and bombarded Shifeng. Under Shifeng's control, these rocks were no longer as simple as the condensation of Hongmeng's energy. During the condensation process of Hongmeng's energy, they turned into real rock. After going through the crushing power of the god of Stone Palm, the rocks once again became Hongmeng. The power contained in these two transformations was incomparably huge. An indescribable Hongmeng's energy appeared on the rocks controlled by Shifeng. The degree of suppression of this kind of power was immediately unknown to everyone around. The Hongmeng's energy was like a tidal wave. In just a breath's time, this energy was about to reach Long Chen. If Long Chen's domain could not withstand this attack, then Long Chen would be buried here by these rocks. However, even though Shifeng's attack had reached this point, he still had no intention of stopping. After he waved those rocks, the rocks around him were still buzzing. In just a few breaths' time, another wave of Hongmeng's energy swept out. Compared to before, the power this time was much weaker, but this wave of Hongmeng's energy was superior in speed. This was a sneak attack. Not only was Shifeng prepared for a frontal battle, but he was also secretly determined to kill Long Chen. Chapter 1801. Long Chen, it's not too late for you to kneel and beg for mercy. Shifeng's face was gloomy, perhaps because of the gloomy man's influence. Shifeng's shout spread throughout the gathering place. Even though his words had given Long Chen a chance to beg for mercy, his actions showed that he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Long Chen. Shifeng's hands pushed open violently, and the gloomy Hongmeng force suddenly broke through the air. At the same time, the rocks in front of Long Chen also sped up. Numerous Hongmeng forces bombarded Long Chen continuously like a tide. Rumble! As the Hongmeng force swept through the area, many of the unstable tents and wooden houses in the gathering place collapsed because of the huge shock force. Immediately, many people who were not interested in this battle had no choice but to come out to watch. The speed of the rocks was extremely fast, leaving almost no time for the others to react. Under the watchful eyes of several people, the rocks bombarded Long Chen's surroundings without a moment's delay. One move. You can only see one move of mine. When the rocks bombarded Long Chen's domain and enveloped him, Shifeng was completely relieved. He was very confident that this move of his would be able to kill Long Chen with one move. With his strength at 90% of the Hongmeng Yuanjie, using 90% of the Hongmeng force to deal with a meritorious person was indeed a little like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Clang! While Shifeng was feeling complacent, Long Chen, who was trapped by the rocks, underwent a different change. Long Chen's body was protected by his domain. The rocks that bombarded him were unable to break through Long Chen's domain and could only adhere to it. Long Chen only used half of his attention to maintain the domain from collapsing. This was considered as completing the first step of Long Chen's plan. Next, Long Chen had to wait for the second Hongmeng force condensed by Shifeng to pass through his domain. Only after he had subdued this force could he begin to deal with the rocks outside. When the assassination force successfully penetrated Long Chen's Hongmeng domain, Long Chen was not too surprised. After all, this Hongmeng force was the result of Shifeng's painstaking efforts. Naturally, it was much more powerful than the splitting mountain palm. The power of the assassination had already reached him. Long Chen did not hesitate and directly pierced the dragon halberd in his hand. The 9 ice dragons released all of their origin source ice skin at the same time in order to completely destroy the power of the assassination. However, Shi Feng was not to be trifled with. Even though Li Ningyu had entered Long Chen's domain, Shi Feng still had a mental connection with this force. No matter how the 9 ice dragons released the origin ice soul, the assassination force was completely ignored. It was only focused on Long Chen, who held the dragon halberd in his hand. Seeing this, Long Chen knew that he could no longer be careless. The origin ice soul was actually ineffective against this assassination force. Long Chen only understood the reason later. The origin ice soul could freeze primordial chaos and seal heaven and earth. However, the power of this assassination was condensed from primordial chaos, and the power of the stone was condensed from primordial chaos. In other words, this assassination power transcended everything in this world. This was the reason why the origin ice soul was ineffective against it. One had to know that even such a powerful origin ice soul could not deal with it. Since the origin ice soul didn't work, Long Chen didn't have any other methods. Long Chen immediately withdrew the 9 ice dragons. The Hong Meng power around him began to fluctuate faintly. A weak flame flickered in this domain. In front of this flame, the assassination force actually hesitated for half a breath. Presumably, Shi Feng did not know what Long Chen was up to. He was somewhat worried. The weak flame gradually took shape. A distinguishable dragon shape appeared in Long Chen's meridians. At the same time, the Hong Meng power around Long Chen also condensed into a raging flame. His entire body emitted a bright flame. It was like the brilliance on the domain tablet. The bright red flame lit up in the dark night of the small spiritual world. Naturally, it would attract the attention of others. However, before the crowd could react, the people who were staring at this ball of flame suddenly turned their heads. Boom! The flame filled Long Chen's domain. At this moment, the stones attached to the domain fell one after another. Some of the stones that did not fall were burned into ashes by the heat emitted by the domain at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, above this domain, the shadow of a dragon that was emitting flames suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. As for the assassination force that entered Long Chen's domain, it naturally disappeared without a trace and turned into ashes. At this moment, the enormous fire dragon was the overlord of this world. Due to it being nighttime, the fire dragon appeared even more dazzling than usual. The primordial power wrapped around its body was even denser, causing one's heart to tremble in fear. Shi Feng could not help but be surprised. He originally thought that he could completely kill Long Chen. Not only was it completely broken by Long Chen, but it also gave Long Chen enough time to prepare the next move to deal with him. At this moment, Shi Feng somewhat agreed with what Long Chen had said before. The power of this domain was indeed somewhat domineering. If Long Chen did not have the domain to protect his body, just the Hong Meng stones and the God of Rock splitting palm alone would be enough to kill Long Chen. This time, Shi Feng's situation was mostly due to this reason. In this gathering place, almost half of the people were attracted by this battle. When they saw the bright and dazzling fire dragon that was hovering in the sky, they could not help but click their tongues in amazement. At this moment, Long Chen directly left the domain. His entire body suddenly floated up. His mind was connected to the fire dragon, and a fierce Hong Meng aura suddenly erupted from his body. World of Fire Dragon! Long Chen shouted loudly. This fire dragon also seemed to have received an order at this moment. It immediately bit down viciously at Shi Feng below. The flames around its body scattered at this moment and suddenly swept across the sky. Clang! In the dark night, due to the flames around the fire dragon, to a certain extent it actually felt like daytime. At least everyone could see the person in front of them. Chapter 1802. At this moment, when the knight was completely chased away by Long Chen, a sharp and clear voice broke through the air on the other side of the confrontation with the fire dragon, which was where Shi Feng was originally located. Soon after, everyone was shocked to see that under the illumination of the firelight around the fire dragon, a majestic mountain had actually appeared at Shi Feng's original position. This large mountain was covered with rock. The moment it appeared, a wave of ferocious Hong Meng force swept out in the air. It was just like a huge wave in the vast and mighty world. As the rock mountain was completely formed, a domain was formed in an instant. It did not give Long Chen any time to react. After this, an ice-cold and dark voice surged out from within the rock mountain. "You are not the only one who has a domain to protect you. My domain is not the least bit inferior to yours." This voice reverberated through the layers of the rock mountain in the nighttime that was as bright as day. It directly latched onto everyone's mind and stirred up waves after waves of violent reverberations. Rumble! After the ice-cold voice sounded, the vast and endless majestic mountain actually emitted a shattering sound at this moment. A couple of huge rocks rumbled and fell. They were directly wrapped in waves of incomparably strong Hong Meng force and smashed many large holes in the gathering place below. Fortunately, the people around the gathering place had already been awakened by the previous battle. Otherwise, when these rocks smashed onto them, it would really be a disaster. The firelight around the fire dragon seemed to have become much dimmer because of the enormous Hong Meng force. However, this fire dragon did not even take half a step back in the face of such a majestic mountain. After all, Long Chen had already relied on his unique domain to successfully destroy the attack that Shi Feng thought would definitely kill Long Chen long ago. Now, the two of them had once again unleashed a new round of attack. If nothing unexpected happened, the people under the night sky would definitely see a big battle. The fight between Long Chen and Shi Feng was simply out of the ordinary in the eyes of those who had been awakened by the big battle. They could not understand why the leader of the rock tribe, Shi Feng, would actually suddenly fight with Long Chen, a genius who had unleashed 7 rays of brilliance on the domain's stone pillar. When he saw Long Chen's attack, a shocked expression finally surfaced on Hua Zhan's face outside the wooden house. In Shi Feng's eyes, Long Chen was like an endless kettle that was always able to bring him endless surprises when something unexpected happened. The fire dragon formed by Long Chen's Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon art was indeed suppressed by the majestic mountain and had no choice but to slightly restrain its strength. However, Long Chen clearly knew that the power of his fire dragon was beyond imagination. If he used the same move as when he was fighting against Feng Qingyang previously, where Feng Qingyang had no choice but to prepare beforehand, it was likely that no matter how majestic Shi Feng's mountain was, it would still collapse under the bombardment of the fire dragon. This was Long Chen's confidence. Long Chen and Shi Feng both understood that their opponents were not ordinary people. If there was even the slightest mistake in this battle, they would definitely suffer an incomparably powerful bombardment. Therefore, from the beginning of the battle between the two, Hong Meng was betting on most of their lives. They simply did not care about holding back any trick. In Long Mu's eyes, this battle was originally a battle where the disparity in strength was too great and the outcome was obvious. Moreover, in Long Mu's mind, the one with the stronger strength was naturally Long Chen. No matter how shocking Shi Feng's methods were, Long Mu understood that it was really wishful thinking to rely on these methods to defeat Long Chen. Not to mention the Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon that Long Chen used today, just the muscles and bones that Long Chen tempered in the clouds and billows were enough to give Shi Feng a headache. To be able to break through Long Chen's copper skin and iron bones was already considered an impressive feat naturally. It was impossible for Shi Feng to break through it. The techniques of the rock tribe were originally mainly defensive methods. They walked the path of a counterattack and collapse. If Long Chen only focused on defense with Shi Feng's methods, he would not have much strength to withstand such a consumption of energy. Moreover, in front of Long Chen's copper skin and iron bones, there was a layer of Long Chen's own domain. Outside the domain was the Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon. It should be known that this Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon was something that even Feng Qingyang of the Tianfeng tribe could not break through. In the end, he had no choice but to be defeated here. The Hongmeng astral wind of the Tianfeng tribe was really much fiercer than Shi Feng's attack method. It was precisely because of these reasons that in Long Mu's opinion, this battle was really meaningless. In the night sky, Shi Feng had long become one with the towering mountain. During this time, he had been manipulating the mountain rocks condensed in the towering mountain to contain a strong Hongmeng force in an attempt to break through the layer of Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon around Long Chen. However, without exception, before the rocks on the towering mountain could bombard Long Chen, the blazing heat released by the magnificent fire dragon in front of Long Chen directly burned the rocks into ashes in the air. This is really a little unexpected. Shi Feng's voice reverberated throughout the towering mountain, as if expressing Shi Feng's urgency. Shi Feng was very clear that this battle in the settlement had undoubtedly broken the rules set by the Green Cloud tribe. In other words, when the people of the Green Cloud tribe reacted, or rather, when the people of the Green Cloud tribe had seen enough of the commotion, they would definitely stand up and do something on the surface. This kind of thing naturally had some disadvantages for the Rock tribe. After all, the Rock tribe had to establish a foothold in the settlement. In addition, tomorrow's trade fair was something that Shi Feng had been looking forward to for a long time. Therefore, at this critical juncture, Shi Feng could not allow any mishaps to occur. This battle had to be ended quickly. With his strength at the 9th layer of the Hongmeng Yuanjie, it was still so strenuous for him to deal with Long Chen, who was at the 1st layer of the Hongmeng Yuanjie. At this time, Shi Feng really looked down on himself. Could it be that Long Chen was really extraordinary? Was someone who could stimulate 7 rays of brilliance really so invulnerable? There was such a huge gap in strength between the 9th layer of the Hongmeng Yuanjie and the 1st layer of the Hongmeng Yuanjie, but in the eyes of this person, it was so weak. Chapter 1803. Heavenly Rock Sacred Shield, page 1/1. No matter what, today has already come to this point. We must fight to the death. Otherwise, with the power of your 7 brilliance domain, you will definitely become the life and death enemy of the Rock tribe in the future. Long Chen, right? Even if I fight to the death. What about my cultivation? I have to tell you one thing. It's not that simple to become enemies with my Rock tribe. As Shi Feng spoke, the green light around his body floated, and the towering mountain began to shake in a rhythmic manner. At this time, Long Chen naturally activated the attack method he had planned. The brilliance of the flames around Long Chen's body began to gradually recede, and the power of the Hongmeng contained within the heaven and earth of the flame dragon continued to expand with the passage of time. The flame dragon condensed by Long Chen was still hovering in the night sky, although the flames around its body were dim. It had dimmed quite a bit, but it was more than enough to illuminate this gathering place. A burst of fiery red Hongmeng power surged around Long Chen's body, and the power of the flame dragon became stronger and stronger. It was like a thunderstorm, wrapping around Long Chen's body one after another. Looking at the towering mountain in front of him, Long Chen's eyes contained a blazing color. Long Chen sighed in his heart, "Now it's time to let you see my true strength." When this voice fell in Long Chen's heart, Long Chen's eyes completely turned from blazing to cold. The heaven and earth of the flame dragon around him also burst out with a Hongmeng aura, as if it was a round of brilliance between heaven and earth. The sun swept out from the sky as if it was invincible. Long Chen's figure flashed and immediately jumped in front of the sun. At the same time, the flame dragon also moved at this time, moving endlessly. Long Chen's body was filled with power. The flaming dragon directly controlled the flaming dragon's heaven and earth. Not long after, Long Chen completely merged the brilliant sun into the flaming dragon's heaven and earth. With the addition of Long Chen's own domain, these energies gradually gathered together. With Long Chen's arrangement, Long Chen had basically eliminated all of the backlash energy. This move had undoubtedly become something that Long Chen could unleash at this moment. What he unleashed was perhaps the strongest killing move that Long Chen had ever unleashed in his life, that matched his own strength. Long Chen's unrestrained and unending movements naturally left Shi Feng no time to react. However, before any of Long Chen's attacks could reach him, Shi Feng had already condensed his own attack. Oh, those majestic attacks! The powerful Hong Meng force swept out from the towering mountain like a tidal wave. Wave after wave gushed out like a river bursting its banks. The towering mountain actually began to collapse. Seeing this, Long Chen immediately understood Shi Feng's method. First, he condensed his own Hong Meng force into the towering mountain. Then, he condensed his own body into one with the towering mountain. Thus, he could achieve the greatest degree of control over the mountain. An overwhelming mountain. In this way, when Shi Feng recovered the Hong Meng force that he had consumed to condense the mountain, it was equivalent to Shi Feng possessing two towering mountains at once. One was outside his body, and the other was still inside his body. At this time, facing Long Chen's fierce attack, Shi Feng was probably a little desperate. He did not wait for his own Hong Meng force to fully condense and began a new round of attack. Shi Feng couldn't be blamed for acting recklessly. After all, Long Chen's attack was too frightening to look at from the outside. Even though Shi Feng clearly knew that Long Chen's strength was only at the first level of Hong Meng Yuanjie's, his heart still could not help but tremble. Since he had already used all his strength and put the dignity of the rock tribe on the line, Shi Feng naturally understood that he had to be worthy of these things. Blazing dragon swallows the sun. Long Chen did not hesitate at all. After thinking for a while, he came up with a name for his attack this time. With the blazing sun in front and the blazing dragon behind, and with Long Chen's own pulling force, these two forces were able to converge, preventing the heaven and earth from collapsing because of this enormous force. As Long Chen's shout disappeared from the heaven and earth, Long Chen immediately gathered all the Hong Meng force around him. Then, he suddenly condensed it into a dragon halberd in his hand. At this time, the dragon halberd was filled with the mighty power of the blazing dragon. In front of the dragon halberd, there was a blazing sun. Sogu's reading website. Chapter 1804. The moment the sacred shield was formed, Long Chen's dragon halberd, which was supported by all the strength in his body, suddenly descended with a vast and mighty cold glint. In front of countless pairs of eyes in this gathering place, all the strength on the dragon halberd heavily smashed onto the sacred shield at this moment. At this moment, the world froze and everyone was detached. Boom! A vast momentum that was enough to shake the entire world was completely released at the point where the dragon halberd and the heavenly rock sacred shield met. At the same time, under the push of this powerful force, even with the heavenly rock sacred shield in front of him, and the heavenly rock sacred shield was not damaged, Shi Feng was still forced back by the Hong Meng force for nearly 200 feet. Clang! At the same time as Shi Feng's figure retreated, the dragon halberd was also a finger's distance away. To some unknown extent, it forcefully pierced into the rock tribe's proudest defensive method, the heavenly rock sacred shield. The surging sparks were bright and dazzling, as if they were going to stab everyone's eyes. Long Chen's figure floated behind the dragon halberd. After the vast momentum on the dragon halberd successfully broke through a portion of the heavenly rock sacred shield's defense, the dragon halberd naturally rose up in a spurt of energy, and the aura around his body continuously condensed. Just like this, Long Chen planned to completely shatter all the thoughts that Shi Feng should not have thought of this time. In the gathering place, when people saw that the dragon halberd controlled by Long Chen was actually able to pierce through the heavenly rock sacred shield that Shi Feng had condensed, they had some control of the battle situation in their hearts. In this battle, until now, Long Chen could be considered to have the absolute upper hand. At this moment, the Hong Meng around Shi Feng's body was flowing away in wave. His face was slightly gloomy, and his eyes flickered with a trace of powerlessness. As the person who fought Long Chen, he naturally understood the situation of Long Chen in this battle better than anyone else. Just as those people thought, Shi Feng did not have any advantage at this moment. Moreover, in these few rounds of battle with Long Chen, Shi Feng also felt that the dragon halberd in Long Chen's hand, which was supported by several forces, could be broken. Just as Shi Feng used all his strength to condense the rock tribe's strongest defensive method, the heavenly rock sacred shield, under Long Chen's fierce attack, Shi Feng still had no choice but to retreat for the time being. Logically speaking, if a normal person could only rely on a strong defensive method to delay the opponent's attack, then there was no need to continue the battle. They could either quickly surrender and beg for mercy, or find an opportunity to escape and leave as soon as possible. However, Shi Feng was different. Shi Feng was the most outstanding genius of the younger generation of the Rock tribe. He was certain that even if Long Chen could display such a vast attack, Long Chen would not be able to last for too long. Moreover, Shi Feng's Rock tribe paid the most attention to steadiness, and had a unique advantage in a prolonged battle. Shi Feng felt that as long as he could survive Long Chen's attack, then the following battle would definitely belong to Shi Feng. At that time, the weakened Long Chen would not be able to resist Shi Feng's attack. After all, Shi Feng still firmly believed in the gap between the Hong Meng Yuan Jie, which had been pointed out by Long Chen as unrealistic. Thinking of this, Shi Feng's eyes still released a chill. Although his body was forced to leave the heavenly rock sacred shield by nearly 20 feet under the Hong Meng force of Long Chen's halberd, there was almost no harm to Shi Feng. At least, the heavenly rock sacred shield had not been broken by Long Chen. This also meant that Shi Feng still had a chance to turn the tables. Although this chance was very slim, it was still there. Shi Feng seemed to have reignited his fighting spirit. The Hong Meng force around his body connected to his meridians and was constantly exchanging with the mighty Hong Meng force between heaven and earth. It was also at this time that Shi Feng inadvertently glanced through the cracks of the heavenly rock sacred shield. On the other side of the heavenly rock sacred shield, Long Chen was holding the halberd in his hand and exerting all his strength on the heavenly rock sacred shield. Shi Feng was shocked to see a trace of disdain in Long Chen's eyes. At the same time, the corners of Long Chen's mouth rose slightly when he looked at Shi Feng. This scene was naturally seen by Shi Feng. At this time, Shi Feng, who had just ignited his fighting spirit, was about to explode like an animal that had been stimulated. For a long time, as the pride of the younger generation of the Rock tribe, Shi Feng was the only one who had the qualifications to look at others like this. Even when he came to the small spirit world, even if he met people like Hai Qingling who had better talent than him, they still had a trace of respect for him. At this time, Long Chen, a nobody whose strength was far lower than his, whose origin was unknown, and whose domain strength was 2 levels higher than his, actually dared to look down on him so openly. This kind of humiliation might be tolerated by others, but when it came to Shi Feng could not swallow this unscathed no matter what. It was like a good spiritual medicine that had been cultivated in a spiritual medicine field since young. Since young, this good spiritual medicine had superior aptitude and quality. Even if it was taken to other spiritual medicine fields, it would still be able to look down on others. However, now, a wild spiritual medicine had appeared out of nowhere. Although its quality was better than the good spiritual medicine from the spiritual medicine field, its growth was far inferior to the good spiritual medicine. Even so, this wild spiritual medicine dared to look down on Shi Feng. No wonder the good spiritual medicine felt that it was unfair. Long Chen's move was naturally to let Shi Feng feel the disdain he conveyed, and then let Shi Feng reach a state where his realm was unstable. In this way, in the following battle, Long Chen's chances of winning would increase slightly. After all, in a battle between Long Chen and Shi Feng, the most important thing was to pay attention to the maintenance of one's state of mind. Without a stable state of mind, no matter how strong one would not be able to fully display it. Through the gap of the heavenly rock's sacred shield, Long Chen saw a trace of anger flashing in Shi Feng's eyes. Naturally, he was secretly happy in his heart. Chapter 1805. Next, Long Chen operated the dragon halberd that was supported by Hong Meng to the greatest extent. At the same time, Long Chen condensed an endless stream of energy in his palm and directly poured it into the dragon halberd in his hand. Immediately after, the moment the dragon halberd received the support of Long Chen's energy, the entire body of the dragon halberd began to tremble violently. Although the trembling was not large, the frequency of the trembling was surprisingly fast. During the trembling, ripples of Hong Meng swept out, and an ear-piercing Hong Meng sound wave gushed out. Separated by the heavenly rock's sacred shield, although there was a crack, Shi Feng could not see what Long Chen was trying to do. The might of the sacred flame, fall to the heavens. Long Chen suddenly let out a loud shout. Immediately after, the dragon halberd that was trembling at an astonishing speed began to move at this moment. Originally, the dragon halberd was half an inch inserted into the heavenly rock's sacred shield, and was unable to move at all. However, after Long Chen's shout fell, the dragon halberd once again burst out with an extremely young and strong Hong Meng Qi. This Hong Meng Qi was immediately connected to the dragon halberd in the heavenly rock's sacred shield. Countless Hong Meng Qi was actually poured into the heavenly rock's sacred shield in an instant. Shwa shwa. The heart-shaking Hong Meng Qi faintly spread out from the heavenly rock's sacred shield. Although on the surface there was nothing unusual about the heavenly rock's sacred shield, Shi Feng, as the controller of the heavenly rock's sacred shield, had a serious expression on his face. He could clearly sense that his heavenly rock's sacred shield, which was still indestructible on the surface, was gradually collapsing from the inside out after Long Chen transmitted the Hong Meng Qi into it. Discovering this scene, Shi Feng's mind went blank for a moment. In his panic, Shi Feng actually forgot what he was going to do next. It was also at this time that the heavenly rock's sacred shield was about to shatter. Shi Feng, who was filled with extreme resentment, gradually woke up. Our ancestors once said that there can be no construction without destruction. If Shi Feng hadn't been frightened by the situation of the heavenly rock's sacred shield, causing his mind to temporarily empty, it would have taken Shi Feng a long time to react. It turned out that he had already been tricked by Long Chen. Using Long Chen to make him resentful and unstable, Long Chen chose to use the energy around his body at this time, passing it into the heavenly rock's sacred shield through the half of the dragon halberd that was already embedded in the heavenly rock's sacred shield. If Shi Feng's heart was clear at that time, he naturally wouldn't have allowed Long Chen to obtain such a great opportunity. He would have been able to smoothly inject this Hong Meng Qi into the heavenly rock's sacred shield that Shi Feng was controlling. Shi Feng, on the other hand, chose to condense the primordial chaos around him when he was filled with resentment. This way, he naturally lost some control over the heavenly rock's sacred shield, and naturally allowed Long Chen to take advantage of the situation to enter. At this point, the wood had already become a boat. No matter how much Shi Feng regretted it, it was useless. In a battle between experts, what they competed with was often an instant state of mind. However, Shi Feng actually failed to do so. At this moment, Shi Feng looked at the heavenly rock's sacred shield that was about to collapse. He couldn't help but feel a little shocked in his heart. He knew that once the heavenly rock's sacred shield collapsed, he would have no means of defense. When Long Chen's powerful dragon halberd stabbed in front of him, Shi Feng would undoubtedly die. Why was it that Long Chen, who was on the first level of Hong Meng Yuanjie, was able to stimulate such a huge Hong Meng aura? Why was it that his most powerful defensive method was actually broken by Long Chen? Perhaps no one would come back to answer Shi Feng. Break! Long Chen shouted again. Above the gathering place, shattered stones formed a barrage. After a short pause in the air, waves of Hong Meng Qi that shook the heavens and earth shot out in all directions. Some of the stones had even turned into a pile of ashes in mid-air. A pile of Hong Meng, the heavenly rock sacred shield that Shi Feng used all his strength to condense, the top defensive method of the rock tribe, shattered under the stab of Long Chen's dragon halberd. Immediately after, Long Chen held the dragon halberd tightly in his hand. The power of the domain condensed into a ball of brilliance around Long Chen's body. A cold light appeared in Long Chen's eyes. The dragon halberd immediately wrapped up a group of Hong Meng that did not have time to shatter the heavens and earth. After Long Chen's straightforward activation of the Hong Meng, the stones ignited with mighty flames and fiercely rushed towards the still somewhat sluggish Shi Feng. Dong dong! The burning stones streaked across the sky. Waves of Hong Meng Gui Jin that could be seen with the naked eye rushed out, piercing straight through the air and creating a vacuum domain. Then, it heavily bombarded Shi Feng's body. From the time Long Chen instilled Hong Meng Qi into the stone to the time it bombarded Shi Feng's body, it only took 2 breaths of time from start to finish. This could not be blamed on Shi Feng's sluggish expression. After the stones bombarded Shi Feng's body, Shi Feng's figure rapidly retreated. The power of Hong Meng around his body fluctuated, and Shi Feng's expression became somewhat painful. Perhaps the impact of these stones could indeed cause Shi Feng pain. These stones could only cause Shi Feng pain. As for the dragon halberd, which could take Shi Feng's life, it would follow. Long Chen's speed was so fast that it almost surpassed the Hong Meng astral wind in the hands of the Tianfeng tribe's Feng Qingyang. Shua! In the blink of an eye, the dragon halberd drew a line of fire in the air and directly pierced Shi Feng's body. Clang! A thunderous burst of sparks appeared at the point of contact between the dragon halberd and Shi Feng's body. Long Chen's figure stopped in midair. Previously, when Shi Feng was hit by the stones, he would retreat a few steps. But now, when the dragon halberd pierced Shi Feng's body did not move at all. It turned out that there was a fist-sized circular stone plate on Shi Feng's body, which firmly blocked the sharp edge of the dragon halberd. In this way, in Long Chen's view, the dragon halberd had indeed pierced Shi Feng's body. However, Shi Feng could clearly see that the fist-sized stone plate had miraculously blocked Long Chen's fatal blow. Obviously, this stone plate should be a spirit treasure that Shi Feng had never used before. At the crucial moment, it was actually able to block such a sharp dragon halberd, and it also prevented Shi Feng's body from being affected in the slightest. However, it was this stone plate that could block the dragon halberd's advance. After the dragon halberd came into contact with each other, cracks began to appear on its surface. Obviously, this stone plate had also suffered a heavy blow. It could be assumed that after this, the stone plate was completely destroyed. Chapter 1806. Although Shi Feng was able to dodge Long Chen's killing move by relying on the mysterious stone piece, the dense storm of Hong Meng's imposing aura on the dragon halberd had indeed landed on Shi Feng's body. After all, the stone piece was stuck close to Shi Feng's body. Piercing the stone piece was equivalent to piercing Shi Feng's body. Because the Hong Meng's imposing aura on the dragon halberd had been channeled into Shi Feng's body, Shi Feng immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that all the meridians in his body had been severely damaged. After this, Shi Feng's expression seemed to have regained some rationality. Very quickly, when Long Chen's mysterious stone piece was still blocking his attack, Shi Feng used the last trace of Hong Meng's power in his body and quickly retreated. Long Chen, if you have the ability, let me see you again at the trade fair tomorrow night. As soon as he finished speaking, Shi Feng's figure, which had been removed from the battlefield, suddenly fled. Shi Feng's ruthless words before he left also echoed around the gathering place. After Shi Feng left, the mysterious stone piece, which had lost the support of Hong Meng's power, still firmly restrained all the movements of the dragon halberd in Long Chen's hand. It was as if the dragon halberd had been locked. No matter how much strength Long Chen used, he could not move it at all. Fortunately, after all, without the support of Hong Meng's power, after a stalemate of more than 10 breaths, Long Chen still relied on brute force to drag the dragon halberd out of the restriction of the mysterious stone piece. This fist-sized mysterious stone piece had really piqued Long Chen's curiosity. It had to be said that this mysterious stone piece must be a rare treasure to be able to withstand Long Chen's powerful dragon halberd. Otherwise, Shi Feng wouldn't have only used it when his life was at stake. Long Chen originally wanted to subdue this mysterious rock. However, it was a pity that most of the energy on the dragon halberd was channeled into the mysterious rock when it came into contact with it. As a result, after the dragon halberd was pulled out of the rock, the fist-sized rock disappeared in front of Long Chen's eyes in less than 2 breaths of time. Regarding this, Long Chen was also helpless. After all, this was a spiritual treasure that belonged to someone else. Since he could not obtain it, it was naturally not an opportunity that belonged to him. At this moment, in the gathering place, when those people saw the result of the battle, almost all of them were shocked and let out a long sigh. Thinking back to the beginning of the battle and then looking back at the end of the battle, everyone's expression was one of regret. They never thought that Shi Feng, whose strength was at the 9th level of the Hong Meng Yuanjie, would actually be defeated by Long Chen, who was at the 1st level of the Hong Meng Yuanjie. Moreover, Long Chen actually forced Shi Feng to use his last resort to save his own life and escape with serious injuries. This person is truly worthy of the 7 rays of brilliance. Many people sighed. They naturally thought of what had happened during the day. Long Chen had caused the domain steel to light up with 7 rays of brilliance. However, although this matter was shocking, it was quickly forgotten. After all, the person who caused the domain steel to light up with 10 rays of brilliance was the first thing that was talked about in this gathering place. Now, after this battle, Long Chen could be considered to have completely made a name for himself in the gathering place. One after another, shocked gazes looked at the figure holding the dragon halberd in the night sky. Their expressions were full of all kinds of charm. Hai Qingling stood far away from the crowd and looked at the flame dragon behind the dragon halberd. She frowned slightly, as if she had discovered something extraordinary. The gloomy man was standing beside Hai Qingling. When he noticed that Hai Qingling knew that there was something wrong with the flame dragon behind Long Chen, he couldn't help but smile slightly. "Can you tell?" the gloomy man whispered. Hai Qingling nodded and said, "I'm not sure, but I'm at least 70% sure." The gloomy man shook his head and said, "Long Chen might be a descendant of the Long tribe in the polar region. Speaking of which, there is a little connection. It's very likely that he has the atavistic body, which is rare in the dragon clan." Atavistic body. Hai Qingling muttered to herself and said, "If he is allowed to grow in the future, he might be able to successfully transform into a dragon, right?" The gloomy man nodded and said, "Although the probability is not high, we can't rule out this possibility. Once he transforms into a dragon, he will be separated from the human clan. Naturally, he will belong to the Hong Meng dragon clan. In that case, he will be the enemy of the Hong Meng polar region." Hai Qingling's eyes flashed with coldness. The gloomy man smiled and said, "No matter what, it's best to get rid of him before he transforms into a dragon. Otherwise, if the Tao ancestor investigates, none of us will be able to bear it." Hai Qingling sighed and said, "It's been almost 100,000 years, but the Tao ancestors still can't let go of this matter? The Long Meng polar region is now a paradise for demonic beasts. The entire Hong Meng dragon clan doesn't have the slightest bloodline. Now that he has the atavistic body, he probably doesn't know what happened 100,000 years ago. Why does the Tao ancestor still want to exterminate him?" The gloomy man's expression was solemn and said, when the Tao ancestor of the Long Meng polar region was about to die, he gathered half of the Hong Meng polar region and made the desolate Hong Meng prayer. He clearly told our Hong Meng Tao ancestor that one day, his dragon clan will return to the 9 polar regions. Just based on this Long Chen in front of us? I think he doesn't even know about his own body. Hai Qingling's expression was a little resentful. The gloomy man smiled and said, "Haven't you been in contact with the Hong Meng polar region these past few days? Something big has happened in the Long Meng polar region." Something big? Hai Qingling frowned slightly. The gloomy man nodded. He looked at the Long Chen in the night sky and said, "There was a team that went to the Long Meng polar region to hunt demonic beasts. In the Long Meng polar region, they found a secret realm. After they entered, they found that the secret realm was filled with demonic beasts of Hong Meng Tianjing and above. This is shocking. After all, you also know that after the war 100,000 years ago, the Long Meng polar region was filled with demonic beasts. It's not a big deal that there were a few Hong Meng Tianjing demonic beasts. But the amazing thing is that when this team found the Hong Meng Tianjing demonic beasts in the secret realm, they actually saw a living dragon. Now, this news has spread in the various polar regions. Many people want to go to the Long Meng polar region to investigate. However, it's too dangerous," the gloomy man said solemnly. Chapter 1807. Hai Qingling was a little interested in the gloomy man's words. After thinking for a while, she asked, "Do you know what Dao Zhu means?" The gloomy man shook his head and said, "I also learned about these things through a secret method. As for the deeper secrets, I'm afraid we'll have to wait until the people of the 10 major tribes go out. Dao Zhu is probably still in seclusion and doesn't know much about these things. We have to go out as soon as possible. I'm afraid we can't stay in this small spiritual world any longer." Hai Qingling nodded. She suddenly looked at the figure in the air and said, "This Shi Feng is too reckless. He didn't even say goodbye to us and caused such a big trouble. It's really shameful. Rather than saying that Shi Feng is shameful, it's better to say that this Long Chen is too shocking." The gloomy man's eyes were like torches. He said, "I've already inquired about this guy called Long Chen. He has a fierce reputation in the south of the small spiritual world. It's said that he's the main person who opened the spiritual world ruins that most people are scrambling for." Hai Qingling was a little shocked. She said, "Sure enough, a person who can stimulate 7 brilliances must be extraordinary. With the strength of the Hong Meng Yuanjie, he actually suppressed Shi Feng so thoroughly. I'm really curious. What is this Long Chen's true strength? What is his strength like? Let's wait and see. The gathering place won't be very safe. Tomorrow's trade fair will really be a good show," the gloomy man said with a smile. Long Chen's battle tonight was really in the limelight. He completely showed off his prestige in this gathering place. However, Long Chen also knew that he was indeed awe-inspiring. At the same time, he also made a connection with the Rock tribe. If Long Chen did not start a grudge, it would be troublesome to wait for Shi Feng to recover from his injuries and cautiously face Long Chen again. After all, no matter what, the Rock tribe was still one of the top 10 tribes. Naturally, they had a strong foundation. Meanwhile, before Shi Feng escaped, he had left behind some ruthless words, stating that he would warn Long Chen to be careful during tomorrow's trade fair. In other words, Long Chen already had an inescapable net in place during tomorrow's trade fair. Long Chen's heart was full of righteousness, and he was fearless. After Shi Feng's figure had completely disappeared, Long Chen withdrew his Hong Meng. Only then did he slowly land beside the wooden house and meet up with Long Yuan and the rest. This time, no matter how you look at it, we have completely clashed with the Rock tribe, Long Mu said with a smile as he looked at the tired Long Chen. Long Chen nodded. There was not much change in his expression. It was obvious that he did not care. He turned to look at Huazhan and said, "Brother Huazhan, Do you know that at the last moment of my battle with Shi Feng had summoned something to block my attack? What was that stone piece that I used to attack? Hua Zhan frowned and said, I don't know exactly what it is, but when I was in the Broken Flower tribe, I heard some news. It seems that the Rock tribe has a special secret technique that allows many experts of the Rock tribe to die. After the experts of the Rock tribe died, their bodies would be refined by the people of the Rock tribe, condensing into a palm-sized protective object. If our guess is wrong, the stone piece that you saw earlier, Longchen, should be this object. Longchen nodded and said, So that's how it is. I have to say that this stone piece is indeed tough. My attack was so powerful. Such a small stone piece was actually able to block all of my strength. This is really unexpected. After he finished speaking, Longchen smiled and said, The battle is over. I don't think anyone will come back to provoke us. After all, Shi Feng helped us in this matter. All right, let's take advantage of this beautiful night to rest. We must win tomorrow's trade fair. The few of them nodded and naturally agreed with this suggestion. Just like this, as Longchen and the others once again entered the wooden house that was about to collapse, the splashes in the gathering place finally calmed down. On a gentle slope in the gathering place, a burst of wind sound swept past. A slightly hurried figure hurriedly arrived on the platform. This person's body had a bloody aura. His expression was also extremely miserable. It was obvious that he had lost a battle. That's right, this person was Shi Feng, who had previously fought with Longchen. On this gentle slope, there were already two people waiting for Shi Feng. When Shi Feng landed, the two of them opened their mouths to speak. After one of them looked at Shi Feng's injuries and felt that they were not that serious, he said in a clear voice, Shi Feng, you're still too anxious. I've only just learned about this Longchen. In the spirit world ruins, the most powerful one is the inheritance of this Longchen. The inheritance of the tribe ruins is in Longchen's body. Don't underestimate him just because he's only at the level 1 of the primordial realm. With the help of the mysterious inheritance power, his power is comparable to that of a Hong Meng firmament realm expert. Upon hearing this, Shi Feng's face turned gloomy. He said, So that's how it is. I was wondering why this kid's technique could burst forth with such a vast power. It turns out that he has the power of inheritance. It's said that it's the inheritance of a tribe called Xianyan tribe. It's been tens of thousands of years. Now, no one knows how strong this Xianyan tribe was at that time. It must be extraordinary. The other person thought for a while and said, No matter the result this time, at least I've found out some of Longchen's secrets. Although it's very likely that he's from the Long tribe in the polar region of Hongmeng, in my opinion, the bloodline in his body is really strange. It vaguely has the bloodline aura of a true dragon. I think the two of you are right. The reason why this Longchen can light up the domain steel is because of the power of the dragon bloodline in his body. Shi Feng's face was slightly pale. His face was white, but his words were very firm. Now that there are changes in the polar region of Longmeng, the Tao Zu is asking our 10 tribes to hurry to deal with it. I didn't expect to meet a half-human half-dragon in this small spirit world. It's really interesting. The person who spoke earlier chuckled. No matter what the background of this Longchen is, since the Tao Zu has already set the rules, and now he has awakened the dragon bloodline in his body, he naturally can't be left alive. When the trade fair ends tomorrow, why don't we work together to solve it? Let's do it. The few people beside Longchen are also quite talented. Their strength and cultivation levels are also extraordinary. It's fine, let's kill them all together. Sogu's reading website. Chapter 1808. Following the arrival of the second day, many people arrived at the gathering place from all directions, causing the already crowded gathering place to become even more congested. Their purpose was the same, which was to attend the trade fair hosted by the Tsangyun tribe in the gathering place today. Some of the numinous treasures from the trade fair gradually began to circulate. Many of them were extremely rare treasures that were extremely beneficial to one's cultivation. The reason why these numinous treasures were brought to the trade fair was because even though these numinous treasures were rare, they were not of much help to one's cultivation. Therefore, people would bring their numinous treasures to the trade fair and exchange them with other people's numinous treasures under the auspices of someone else. This was the best of both worlds. The trade fair was set to be held at night, so the people who came to the gathering place during the day naturally focused their attention on the domain tablet in the gathering place. Most of the newly arrived Hong Meng Yuanjie experts went to the domain tablet to test their domain power. Occasionally, some geniuses with 5 or 6 rays of light would appear, which naturally caused the crowd to cheer. However, these newcomers did not know that just yesterday 10 rays of light had lit up on the domain tablet. Naturally, there were those who could not wait to test their strength, and naturally, there were those who wanted to hide their strength. After all, in general, there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the gathering place. If one was not careful, one would be able to see people from the 10 major tribes. Those who dared to walk openly in the gathering place were naturally not simple people. Gradually, as the news spread among the crowd, those who had just arrived at the gathering place quickly learned about what happened last night. Besides being amazed, they were also very curious about the legendary Long Chen. Of course, there were also many people who came from the spiritual world ruins and had some understanding of Long Chen. When they heard about Long Chen's deeds, they were even more surprised. Some people faintly felt that after Shifeng was defeated and fled, the Rock tribe's reaction was too calm, as if something big was brewing. However, some people also felt that the most important thing now was the trade fair that was going to be held in this gathering place. Everything else naturally had to be put aside. Under the influence of the trade fair, the gathering place became increasingly turbid, making it increasingly difficult to see what was going on. Just like this, as night fell, the trade fair finally began under the full support of the Green Cloud tribe. The location of the trade fair was chosen in the northeast corner of the gathering place. It was an empty flat ground. Even though the gathering place was currently overcrowded, this flat ground was still able to accommodate everyone. Although it looked a little crowded, this place could still be considered quite large. When Long Chen and his group walked into the trade fair, they immediately felt numerous gazes directed at them. These people kept sizing up Long Chen, as if they wanted to tear Long Chen apart. After what happened last night, the people in this gathering place could be considered to have recognized this guy called Long Chen. Naturally, they were paying attention to Long Chen's every move. Long Chen, is it? It seems that since you are able to come to this trade fair, you must also have a spiritual treasure on you. Before Long Chen and his group could find a seat, a figure hurriedly came over. Long Chen took a look and found that the person who spoke was none other than the gloomy man he saw at the domain pillar yesterday. Long Chen never expected that this gloomy man would actually take the initiative to talk to him. "Friend, how should I address you?" Long Chen was rather respectful. After all, this gloomy man was also a person who caused the domain pillar to light up with 6 rays of brilliance. He could not be underestimated. "Just call me Hua Yang," the gloomy man said with a smile. Long Chen nodded and said, "Hua Yang, may I know which tribe you are from?" The gloomy man who called himself Hua Yang said, "I am not originally from the polar region of Hong Meng. I heard that the small spiritual world does not refuse anyone, so I came here by chance." "I see." Long Chen nodded with a smile. In his heart, he became more vigilant towards Hua Yang. According to what Hua Yang said, a person without any background could have such talent and strength. At the same time, he could be on good terms with the Rock tribe and the Blue Sea tribe, one of the top 10 tribes in the polar region of Hong Meng. This Hua Yang was really not simple. "Brother Long Chen, you became famous last night. Yesterday, when I saw Long Chen activate 7 rays of brilliance, I still had some doubts in my heart. But after your battle last night, my doubts in my heart are completely gone. That battle was really shocking. At this time, there was no trace of gloominess in Hua Yang's face. Such a huge change really made Long Chen feel uncomfortable. It had to be said that after Hua Yang's words, Long Chen looked at the surrounding people and found that their eyes had become somewhat admiring. Was it because he defeated Shi Feng from the Rock Tribe that he would be admired by these people? Brother Hua Yang, you must be joking. I was just lucky. What I don't understand is that the Rock Tribe was with you yesterday. Now you want to worm your way into being friends with him. Aren't you afraid that Shi Feng will think too much? Long Chen did not understand Hua Yang's intention for a while. Hua Yang laughed and said, Brother Long Chen, there's something you don't know. The Rock Tribe and I just met by chance. They saw my strength by chance and tried to rope me in. If it weren't for the Rock Tribe's strength, I would have been free to wander in this small spiritual world. So that's how it is. Long Chen nodded suspiciously and said, Brother Hua Yang, do you know what kind of treasures are worth paying attention to in this trade fair? Hua Yang nodded and said, I only know a little. It is said that there is a naturally formed golden bright jade, which contains the power to integrate the power of the domain. To put it bluntly, it is a piece of jade that will play a big role when the Hong Meng Yuanjie is promoted to the Hong Meng Tianjing. There is also a long saber from tens of thousands of years ago. It is said to be the treasure of the Black Iron Tribe. I don't know whether it is true or not. Other than that, I don't know much. Long Chen knew in his heart. He quickly thanked Hua Yang and said, Brother Hua Yang, thank you so much. There are countless treasures and opportunities in this trade fair. I hope we can all get what we want. After that, Long Chen looked at the center of the trade fair and said, Let's go. Chapter 1809. Yunqi Luo, page 1/1. After separating from Hua Yang, Long Chen and the others quickly found a good spot. After finding a good spot, Long Mu looked around, released some of his mind, and murmured, There are indeed a lot of experts today. Long Chen nodded. He also felt that in this large open space, there were many people mixed together, and there were nearly 100 auras that were not inferior to his own. There were even some auras that Long Chen could only vaguely sense. They existed, but he could not touch them at all. Obviously, the experts of Hong Meng Yuanjie were almost all gathered in this open space, and there were also many experts of Hong Meng Tianjing. Just when Long Chen was releasing his mind to inquire about the news, a team flew directly from mid-air and landed steadily in front of the trade fair. Blue Ocean Tribe? Long Chen looked at the leader of this team, who was Hai Qingling, whom he saw yesterday, and said so to himself. At this time, beside Hai Qingling, there was a handsome man in blue clothes. From afar, this man seemed to be indifferent to the current trade fair, but Long Chen sensed that this man's strength was lower than his own. There was no way to investigate it. In other words, this man's realm was very likely to be Hong Meng Tianjing. This is the leader of the Blue Ocean Tribe, Hai Qingyan. He is an expert of Hong Meng Tianjing. He did not appear yesterday, because he did not need to use the domain steel at all, Hua Zhan explained. Long Chen nodded and said, Hong Meng Tianjing is really strong. From Hai Qingyan, Long Chen naturally perceived the gap between himself and Hong Meng Tianjing. He could not help but envy in his heart. These experts of Hong Meng Tianjing were really the ones who could dominate this world. Perhaps sensing something, just when Long Chen was looking at Hai Qingyan slowly turned his head and looked at Long Chen through the noisy crowd. Then, Hai Qingyan looked at Long Chen as if he had sensed something. He seemed to have sensed something, and smiled warmly at Long Chen. Looking at this smile, Long Chen did not put on airs, and immediately cupped his hands to Hai Qingyan and smiled in return. In any case, in this place where his strength was not enough to enter the eyes of the Hong Meng Tianjing, unless it was absolutely necessary, he naturally could not become the enemy of these people from the top 10 tribes. After the people of the Blue Ocean tribe appeared, the forces of the top 10 tribes quickly arrived one after another. They all came to this trade fair in an orderly and powerful manner. Naturally, when they appeared, they stood out from the crowd. This is Hong Tianhua of the Red Sun tribe, and he is also an expert of Hong Meng Tianjing. Hua Zhan recognized these people. After all, he had been in this small spiritual world for several months. Speaking of the Red Sun tribe, Long Chen's heart was a little moved. After all, he had personally killed the great elder of the Red Sun tribe in the Sunset Valley, and also obtained the great elder's technique, Brilliant Sun. After Long Chen used this technique, almost all of his opponents would recognize that it was a technique of the Red Sun tribe. Now that he had seen the people of the Red Sun tribe, no matter what happened, he would not be able to use this technique again. The people of the Red Sun tribe realized that if there were any unnecessary troubles, it would be a great loss. After that, it was the people of the Rock tribe who had fought with Long Chen. When Shi Feng saw Long Chen, a trace of killing intent involuntarily appeared on his face. However, Shi Feng did not dare to do anything here. After all, the Blue Cloud tribe was here once again, and there were nearly 10 experts of Hong Meng Yuanjie here. Naturally, they could suppress this place, which was full of crooks and honest people. After waiting for the people of the Rock tribe to find a place, Shi Feng turned to look at Long Chen. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and his expression became extremely arrogant. It was as if he was saying, "When this trade fair ends, it will be the time of your death." When those who knew about the grudge between Long Chen and the Rock tribe saw this scene, their expressions changed. They naturally felt the strong killing intent in Shi Feng's eyes, but when they looked at Long Chen, they were shocked. They suddenly found that even when facing all the people of the Rock tribe, Long Chen's expression was still as calm as before, as if nothing had happened. Although people knew that Long Chen could defeat Shi Feng in a one-on-one fight, how could Long Chen be so calm in the face of so many experts of the Rock tribe? Could it be that Long Chen had faced the Rock tribe for hundreds of years? Would humans continue to create miracles like before? Long Mu stood beside Long Chen. In the face of the provocation of the Rock tribe, Long Mu only curled his lips indifferently. He did not care about this matter at all. However, Long Yuan was different. Unknowingly, the aura around Long Yuan had already fluctuated, as if he was ready to fight. This caused some people who were originally close to Long Yuan to step back a little, afraid that he would be too rash. If the big man was not careful, he would accidentally injure himself. After everyone had found their seats, the atmosphere of the trade fair gradually calmed down. After all, everyone who came here wanted to start the trade fair as soon as possible. They did not want to waste time. Many forces would look at Long Chen to observe. Although Long Chen did not know why, he could not do anything about it, so he could only let it be. When the people of several large tribes gathered here and found their respective satisfactory seats, the Blue Cloud tribe, who was the organizer of this trade fair, also showed up. More than a dozen Hong Meng experts with unparalleled auras appeared. Everyone's gaze was attracted to them. To be able to see more than a dozen Hong Meng Tianjing experts at once was really a blessing. Since the Blue Cloud tribe could have so many Hong Meng Tianjing experts, it could be considered the strength of the top 10 tribes. The leader of the Blue Cloud tribe is called Yunqi Luo. It is said that he was promoted to a Hong Meng Tianjing expert 10 years ago. He was not supposed to come to the opening of the small spiritual world this time, but for some unknown reason, Yunqi Luo came out of the small spiritual world. The spiritual realm actually came out of seclusion midway. Perhaps there's some unspeakable secret, Hua Zhan muttered. Long Chen looked at the figure that Hua Zhan pointed at and immediately felt the powerful Hong Meng aura around Yunqi Luo. Sogu's reading website. Chapter 1810. The Peerless Dragon Emperor. As expected of the leader of the top 10 tribes, as Long Chen looked at the Hong Meng Tianjing experts of the Green Cloud tribe, he could not help but feel a sense of longing. He did not know when he could also become a Hong Meng Yuanjie expert. When that time came, there would be no one who would give him a hard time. After all, those who could be promoted to Hong Meng Yuanjie experts were naturally much more mature in terms of mentality and conduct compared to those Hong Meng Yuanjie experts of the consolidation realm. Thinking about it this way, the Green Cloud tribe, the Red Sun tribe, and the Blue Ocean tribe were all led by Hong Meng Tianjing expert. The Tianfeng tribe and the Rock tribe that Long Chen had met before were led by Hong Meng Yuanjie expert. It seemed that these top 10 tribes also had some ulterior motives. If Long Chen were to become enemies with these Hong Meng Tianjing experts, things would become very troublesome. However, Long Chen was not completely unconfident about this. After all, in the 4 months since Long Chen entered this small spiritual world, from the chaotic prime realm of Hong Meng to the primordial realm of Hong Meng, there had naturally been a great change. Long Yuan, who had not yet awakened the demonic dragon's inheritance, and Long Mu, who was still in his spirit body, had now become companions who could take charge of an area alone. With just these 3 people, Long Chen's combat strength was now enough to fight the Tianfeng tribe and the Rock tribe, which did not have any Hong Meng Tianjing experts, in an open battle. The result of the battle was naturally Long Chen's side having a greater chance of winning. This was Long Chen's confidence. Just as Long Chen was thinking, Yunqi Luo, who had been amazed by Long Chen before, looked at the person beside him and said, "Yun Shield, is that Long Chen who defeated Shifeng?" The man called Yun Shield nodded and said, "Yes, he is Long Chen, the one who lit up the domain steel with 7 rays of brilliance. It seems that he does have some talent. Don't touch him for the time being. Let's see what he does at this trade fair. It won't be too late to think about it after the trade fair is over," Yunqi Luo said slowly. When Yun Shield heard this, his expression changed slightly and he muttered, "This? Didn't we all see it clearly last night? Long Chen has the dragon bloodline." "Humph!" Yunqi Luo snorted and said, "Even if he has the dragon bloodline, so what? He is just a guy who awakened it by chance. He probably doesn't know anything about what happened 100,000 years ago. The Tao ancestor said to kill the dragon clan, but he didn't say to kill the people with the dragon bloodline. Long Chen can come to this place, so he must have a lot of spiritual treasures and opportunities. When the trade fair is over, let's see how much capital he can control before making a decision." Seeing Yun Qiluo's determined look, Yun Shield had no choice but to give up and say in a low voice, "All right." Yunqi Luo smiled and said, "When the number of people is almost enough, let's start quickly." Yun Shield nodded. After that, Yun Shield immediately went to the front of the trade fair, which was a conspicuous place on the hillside, and said loudly, "Everyone." Hearing this, everyone at the trade fair stopped talking. They all knew that since the trade fair was hosted by the Green Cloud tribe, the person on the stage must be a member of the Green Cloud tribe. Not to mention the trade fair, even in this gathering place, in this small spiritual realm, no one could provoke the Green Cloud tribe. This was the most powerful tribe in the polar region of Hong Meng, and it was closely related to the Hong Meng Tao ancestor, who dominated the polar region of Hong Meng. Therefore, when Yun Dun shouted the first sentence, the entire trade fair fell into silence. Yun Shield continued, "Since you are all here for this trade fair, I have to inform you of some rules in advance, so that you won't have to explain it later. In this trade fair, from the moment I say this, no one is allowed to fight in this trade fair, and no one is allowed to use Hong Meng. If anyone violates this rule, no matter which tribe they are from, they will be expelled from this gathering place. If they refuse to comply, they will die. Everyone, are you clear?" Such shocking words, especially the part where he said, "If you don't submit, you'll die," truly gave Long Chen a fright. It had to be said that the Green Cloud tribe really had the style of the leader of the polar region of Hongmeng. The originally chaotic trade fair became incomparably quiet after his words sounded. Yun Shield also swept his gaze around the trade fair. His expression was still determined. "Since no one has any objection, I will take it that everyone has agreed to our rules. Next, I will talk about the trading rules of this trade fair." Yun Shield cleared his throat and continued in a clear voice, "Since we are in this small spiritual world, the crystal coins circulating in the polar region of Hongmeng can no longer be used. Since it is called a trade fair, it is naturally different from the auctions in the polar region of Hongmeng. There are dozens of spiritual treasures in this trade fair. According to the evaluation of our Green Cloud tribe, they are all of high quality and rare opportunities. The reason why they are taken out is that the owner of the spiritual treasure wants to exchange for it. If someone takes a fancy to a spiritual treasure later, he can directly call out the spiritual treasure he owns and let the user evaluate it. I know that many people have obtained various kinds of spiritual medicines in this small spiritual world. If the value of these spiritual medicines is taken out in the polar region of Hongmeng, it will naturally cause a disturbance. Why don't I propose that the rules of this trade fair be to use these spiritual medicines as the currency? In other words, the demon crystals of the demonic beasts with the strength of Hongmeng Yuan Jie in this small spiritual world should also be used as the currency. If you really don't have these things, you can call out your spiritual treasure as I said before. Let me stipulate that a spiritual medicine of high quality is worth 10 pieces of Hongmeng demon crystals. The premise is that the demon crystals must be from the Hongmeng demonic beasts with the strength of Hongmeng Yuan. Does anyone have any objection to my proposal? After Yun Shield finished speaking, he looked at the people in the trade fair with a calm expression. Long Chen agreed with Yun Shield's proposal. In this small spiritual world, the planning of the currency was naturally much weaker than in the outside world. Using Hongmeng demon crystals and Hongmeng spiritual medicines as the currency was naturally a good idea. Although Long Chen did not have a single Hongmeng demon crystal, fortunately, there were many Hongmeng spiritual medicines in Long Yuan, which could be used here. Chapter 1811. For a long time, there was no response from the trade fair. Cloud Shield was very satisfied. He nodded and said, "In that case, I will not beat around the bush. Let the trade fair begin." As soon as he finished speaking, Cloud Shield looked at the people of the Green Cloud tribe and signaled them with his eyes. The people of the Green Cloud tribe understood what he meant. They immediately activated their Hongmeng and brought out the spiritual treasures that were participating in the trade fair from their spatial devices. More than 20 white balls of light suddenly appeared in the air above the trade fair. These balls of light were of different sizes, but they all contained a strong Hongmeng power Dao pressure. At this moment, almost everyone's eyes were firmly fixed on the 20 over white balls of light that had suddenly floated out. Naturally, they knew that these balls of light were the soul treasures. Just by sensing the Hongmeng power Dao fluctuations of different strengths coming from these white balls of light, many people understood that the spiritual treasures were definitely not ordinary objects. If the Green Cloud tribe, which had more than 10 Hongmeng Tianjing experts, did not have the presence of these spiritual treasures, some greedy people would have rushed into the air and snatched these spiritual treasures. The experts of the Green Cloud tribe were watching, which was nothing more than a warning to those greedy people that if they wanted to snatch these spiritual treasures, they would at most be able to get them, but they would not be able to use them. When the crowd's exclamations gradually died down, Cloud Shield waved his hand. A Hongmeng swept out and directly pulled down a white ball of light that was closer to him. The white ball of light fell into Cloud Shield's hand. Cloud Shield used some kind of secret technique. Soon, the white ball of light gradually dissipated and was replaced by a long sword that emitted a fierce aura. This spiritual treasure was accidentally obtained by a friend of the Hong Meng Yuanjie in the ancient battlefield. At first glance, he could tell that this sword was extraordinary. Unfortunately, this friend who obtained this sword is a knife user. Although this sword is a spiritual treasure, it is useless to him. Therefore, he joined this trade fair in order to exchange this sword for other items. After Cloud Shield finished speaking, he grasped the sword in his hand. The Hong Meng around him communicated with his mind, and a fierce sword glow appeared on the sword. At the same time, a substantial sword essence condensed around the sword. The sword essence swept across, directly drawing several marks in the air, and heavily smashing the Hong Meng into pieces. This was the result of Cloud Shield exerting a little force. When he saw the shocked expressions of the crowd, Yun Shield slowly said, "This sword has no name. Its owner is a straightforward person who uses a blade. I hope that this longsword will not be wasted. Therefore, if anyone is interested in this longsword, you can call out your soul treasures or use some elixirs as collateral. You will be able to obtain this longsword." Yun Shield put down the longsword. There was a surprised look on his face. It seemed like he had a glimmer of hope for the longsword. 3 stalks of high-grade Hong Meng spiritual herbs. Very quickly, when Cloud Shield put down the sword, someone in the trade fair shouted out. Without a doubt, this person was extremely fond of the sword. Kunwu Treasured Blade. Heavenly Sun Spirit Talisman. Numerous spiritual treasures were called out one after another. Very quickly, someone went to the side of these people and verified the spiritual treasures that they had called out. Among them, one of the best items was used to exchange for the nameless sword. Naturally, it was a happy ending for both parties. Long Chen looked at the imposing and sharp sword and immediately thought of Jian Shisan. The last time he saw Jian Shisan, he was only using an ordinary sword. He had not seen a sword that was comparable to his sword. Therefore, this nameless sword, with such a sharp sword essence, was naturally worthy of Jian Shisan. Long Chen was thinking about whether he should take this sword and give it to Jian Shisan as a greeting gift in the future. Brother Long Chen, if you want this longsword, it is likely that you will not be able to obtain it without at least 20 elixirs. Hua Zhan by the side seemed to have seen through Long Chen's thoughts and immediately reminded him. Long Chen nodded and said, 20 spiritual herbs. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chen immediately looked at Long Yuan and said, Long Yuan, how many spiritual herbs do you have? Long Yuan immediately released his mind to count and said, there are a total of 23 spiritual herbs with high-grade aptitude. There are 14 spiritual herbs with unknown aptitude. Long Chen had an idea in his heart and said, no hurry, these things are not necessary. Only the falling flower divine jade is the ultimate goal of our trip. Hearing this, Hua Zhan's heart was naturally warm. Beside him, Hua Lei and Hua Yan's expressions were also filled with joy. Long Chen looked at the white light balls floating in the air of the trade fair. Although he knew that the falling flower divine jade was among them, Long Chen did not know which one it was. If the falling flower divine jade appeared, the entire trade fair would scramble for it. With Long Chen's current spiritual herb storage, it was naturally insufficient. After all, Long Chen did not have any spiritual treasures. Most of the cultivation techniques were taught by Long Mu, so he could not openly exchange them with others. However, if he lost the falling flower divine jade because of this, Long Chen could not care about other things. No matter what, he had to get the falling flower divine jade, even if Long Chen had done something outrageous. Just as Long Chen was thinking, the nameless sword had already been successfully traded. The price was a spiritual treasure called the Heavenly Sun Spiritual Talisman, in addition to 5 spiritual herbs of high quality. Following that, one spiritual treasure after another was displayed. Naturally, it was the kind that made people exclaim. There were all kinds of spiritual treasures. There were weapons, techniques, and rare spiritual herbs. However, their value was not too high. Among them, the most dazzling one was a technique called the art of desolation. It was said that if one mastered it, he could steal the vitality of heaven and earth and transform it into his own Hong Meng to fight with the enemy. This art of desolation was coveted by many people. There was a large tribe that used a total of 20 spiritual herbs to successfully obtain it. As the white balls of light in midair disappeared one by one, the atmosphere of the trade fair also became heated. However, this was because the powerful 10 great tribes had not made a move from the start to the end. Obviously, their goal was the soul treasures at the end. If they wasted their resources on these items at the beginning, it would be too reckless if they were to miss out on the later items. Chapter 1812. Similar to the people of the 10 major tribes, Long Chen did not intend to take any of the previous spiritual treasures. Long Chen's eyes were full of energy as he stared at the remaining white light balls in midair. After another numinous treasure was settled, the cloud shield exerted more force and pulled down a ball of light in midair. Everyone, the next spiritual treasure is a little strange. We, the Pale Cloud tribe, have hesitated for a long time before we put this spiritual treasure in the trade fair. Perhaps some of you will not be interested in this spiritual treasure, but please be patient. There are many spiritual treasures that are worthy of your applause. Yun Shield pulled the white light ball to his side as he apologized to the people at the trade fair. At this time, Long Chen was particularly attentive. Long Chen could vaguely feel that the next spiritual treasure was the thing he had been looking forward to. Cloud Shield cast a spell and easily expelled the white ball of light. Almost instantly, a palm-sized crystal spirit jade fell into Cloud Shield's hand. Long Chen didn't even want to blink. The moment the spirit-nourishing jade appeared, he knew without a doubt that it was the falling flower divine jade. Hua Zhan and the others also widened their eyes, and there was an uncontrollable excitement in their expressions. Yun Shield did not seem to care. His expression was a little dull, and he did not seem to be as excited as he was when he introduced the other spiritual treasures. This spiritual treasure is called the Falling Flower Divine Jade. It seems to belong to the Falling Flower tribe. However, the Falling Flower tribe did not send anyone here when the small spiritual world opened, so we can't blame ourselves for taking advantage of this opportunity. This spiritual treasure, called the Falling Flower Divine Jade, seems to be able to regulate the yin and yang qi in the body. Other than that, it has no other use. However, no matter what, this spiritual treasure belongs to the Falling Flower Divine Jade, so it can be put in the trade fair. If you are not interested, I will introduce the next spiritual treasure, Yun Shield said slowly. After hearing Yun Shield's words, Hua Lei and Hua Yan's eyes flashed with anticipation. Hua Zhan almost burst into tears on the spot. They did not expect that the Falling Flower Divine Jade that they had been looking for nearly 4 months would appear in front of them. Long Chen was in a trance and forgot to make a move. Could it be that what Yun Shield said was true and he would introduce the next spiritual treasure? Fortunately, someone helped Long Chen occupy the stage. An Upper Hong Meng spiritual treasure island. As soon as he finished speaking, there were sighs in the trade fair. After Yun Shield introduced the use of the Falling Flower Divine Jade, there were people who sighed. When they heard that someone was willing to pay the price of a spiritual herb for this piece of broken jade, it was really funny. Regulating the yin and yang qi in the body. The yin and yin yang qi in my translation. Many people had the same thought. Indeed, as long as it was not a special body constitution like Hua Lei and Hua Yan's, even Long Chen's heavenly dragon vein, heavenly dragon body, and Long Yuan's atavistic body did not threaten the imbalance of the yin and yang forces in the body. Needless to say, ordinary people's yin and yang forces in the body were even more stable. Therefore, they naturally did not need the falling flower deity jade. In their eyes, it was just a piece of burden. However, it was still a spiritual treasure, so it was dispensable. If it was not for this trade fair, the owner of the falling flower deity jade would have treated it as an ornament. When Long Chern heard that someone was bidding for the falling flower divine jade, he was a little flustered. He took a closer look and found that the bidder was none other than the Rock Tribe, who had a grudge with him. At this moment, Shi Feng was looking at Long Chern with a smile, as if he was saying, "I'm going to snatch the thing that you want the most." Thinking about it, the matter of the falling flower divine jade should have been revealed by Shi Feiyang, who was still alive. Thinking up to this point, Long Chern truly regretted it. He hated himself for not thoroughly confirming Shi Feiyang's life and death back then. That was why the cycle of karma had led to such a thing happening. Now that the Rock Tribe had made a bid and proposed to exchange a spiritual treasure for the falling flower divine jade, if he wanted to obtain the falling flower divine jade, he would have to pay a higher price than the Rock Tribe. It was not that Long Chern could not afford this price. After all, Long Yuan had more than 20 spiritual treasures. Long Chen was just a little worried that the Rock Tribe would not be able to obtain the falling flower divine jade even if he used up all his spiritual treasures. If that was the case, Long Chen had a simple and clear plan. After the trade fair ended, he would deal with the Rock Tribe. Now, what Long Chen needed to do was to raise the price with the Rock Tribe. 6 spiritual treasures, Long Chen said in a clear voice. When Long Chen called out his bid, everyone at the trade fair fell into a state of confusion. They couldn't understand at all. Was this piece of Luo Hua divine jade, which maintained the balance of yin and yang in one's body, really worth 6 high-grade spiritual herbs? 6 spiritual treasures, especially the spiritual treasures of the small spiritual world, were the kind that was priceless in the polar regions of Hongmeng. Any tribe that obtained a spiritual treasure would have to carefully bring it back to the tribe and cultivate it. They could not reveal the slightest bit of information. Now, for such a seemingly useless falling flower divine jade, Long Chen was actually willing to part with 6 spiritual treasures. He was really generous. "Brother Long Chen, thank you very much." Hua Zhan nodded at the side. He did not know what to say now. If he were to do it himself, he would definitely not be able to take out 6 spiritual treasures. Since Long Chen was willing to take them out for him, Hua Zhan would naturally feel bad if he did not say anything. Perhaps the Rock Tribe also knew that even if they obtained the falling flower divine jade, it would only be used as a decoration. After all, the falling flower divine jade had no effect on the people of the Rock Tribe. Previously, they called out the price to prevent Long Chen from obtaining it. Now, in the face of 6 spiritual treasures, the Rock Tribe naturally did not say anything. No one called out the price again. When Cloud Shield was about to announce the price, a light voice came from the Rock Tribe's location. 7 spiritual treasures. The person who spoke was naturally the leader of the Rock Tribe, Shi Feng. Shi Feng looked at Long Chen, and the smile on his face became more intense. Obviously, Shi Feng simply did not want Long Chen to obtain the falling flower divine jade. Or, Shi Feng deliberately put pressure on Long Chen to vent his anger from last night. After all, Shi Feng knew that Long Chen was determined to obtain the falling flower divine jade. No matter how high the price was, Long Chen would naturally increase it. Chapter 1813. It was the peerless Dragon Emperor. Even though he knew Shi Feng's intentions, Long Chen still had to fall into Shi Feng's trap. If he did not do so, the falling flower deity jade would really fall into the hands of the Rock Tribe. In that case, Long Chen's plan would be completely ruined. At this time, Long Chen could only hope that the guy called Shi Feiyang did not reveal too much information to Shi Feng. Otherwise, if Shi Feng knew that Hua Lei and Hua Yan's special physique had a vague connection to the falling flower deity jade, Shifeng would not let go of the falling flower deity Jade no matter what. According to the rock tribe's strength, they could still afford to take out some high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Long Chen hid the expression on his face, trying not to let the people of the rock tribe know what he was thinking. Then, he opened his mouth and said, 8 high-grade elixirs. As soon as he finished speaking, Shifeng continued, 9 high-grade elixirs. Although Long Chen's heart was filled with anger, he could not vent it. If he wanted to complain, he could only blame himself for not being able to completely kill Shifeng at last night's trade fair. 11 high-grade elixirs. Long Chen clenched his fists and shouted in a slightly depressed tone. This time, Long Chen was very clever. He did not follow Shifeng's price of 10 high-grade elixirs. Instead, he called out 11. By doing this, Long Chen wanted to give Shifeng a hint that he only had 11 high-grade elixirs. If he called out 10 and Shifeng increased the price to 11, the falling flower deity Jade would belong to him. Therefore, he called out a price of 11. If Shifeng was more generous than him, he would take the falling flower deity Jade. Sure enough, after hearing Long Chen call out the price of 11 high-grade elixirs, Shifeng, who had been challenging Long Chen all this time, did not immediately follow up. Instead, he stood there for a while, as if the rock tribe was discussing something. Long Chen knew that Shifeng must have begun to hesitate just as he had guessed. After all, if Shifeng took out the price of 12 upper-grade spiritual herbs and bought the falling flower divine Jade, it would at most suppress Long Chen's growth in some aspect. However, it was indeed not worth it to exchange 12 upper-grade spiritual herbs for a falling flower divine Jade that was useless to him. Therefore, after the rock tribe's discussion, the leader Shifeng coldly looked at Long Chen, as if warning Long Chen that he would end up like this if he went against him. In short, because of Shifeng's interference, Long Chen only needed 1 high-grade elixir to get the falling flower deity Jade. Now, he had to use 11 high-grade elixirs to get it. In Shifeng's opinion, Long Chen would have to pay a heavy price for such a loss. However, in Long Chen's opinion, as long as he could get the falling flower deity Jade, even if he had to spend 10 Hong Meng elixirs, it would still be worth it. If no one bids, then I announce the falling flower deity Jade for 11 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. After Yun Dun shouted these words, the atmosphere in the trade fair became lively again. After all, these people were not interested in the falling flower deity Jade. Soon, someone from the Green Cloud tribe came to Long Chen's side. First, he took the falling flower deity Jade, which was wrapped in a white light, in his hand. Then, he asked Long Chen to check the 11 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Long Yuan straightforwardly took out 11 high-grade elixirs. After the people of the Green Cloud tribe checked them, the deal was completed. The falling flower deity Jade, which they had been dreaming of, was finally in their hands. Long Chen and his people finally let out a long sigh of relief. Hua Lei walked to Long Chen's side and pouted. Then, she said excitedly, "Big brother Long Chen, thank you so much." Long Chen smiled and said, "Don't call me big brother in the future. Call me master. When the trade fair is over, let's find a place to have a good look at the falling flower deity Jade, and see if it's useful to you. There are too many people here, so some things are better left unsaid. It's good that we all know in our hearts." Hua Zhan, who was beside him, also showed a grateful expression. He said, 11 high-grade elixirs. This Shifeng is really like a ghost that won't go away. Long Chen waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. I don't believe that the rock tribe didn't come to the trade fair without something to their liking." As he spoke, Long Chen's eyes faintly emitted a chill. It was obvious that the process of Shifeng deliberately bidding against Long Chen had really angered Long Chen. The crowd at the trade fair was once again attracted by Yun Shield's introduction of the next soul treasure. As for the rock tribes bidding against Long Chen for the seemingly useless falling flower deity Jade, Anyone who knew about the battle that took place last night knew that Shi Feng from the Rock tribe was merely acting in a fit of pique with Long Chen. They were too lazy to intervene in this kind of matter. After all, their purpose here was to obtain the soul treasures at the trade fair. Long Chen had already made up his mind. Anyway, there was nothing else that he wanted at the trade fair. If the Rock tribe had something that they wanted, then they could not blame Long Chen for being immoral. Yunqi Luo of the Green Cloud tribe stood at the top of the trade fair, watching the situation at the trade fair with several Hongmeng Tianjing experts from the Green Cloud tribe. Beside Yunqi Luo was a spirited young man who looked to be about the same age as Long Yuan. This person was called Yun Yangyan, a level 9 Hongmeng Yuan Jie expert. It was obvious that he had a high innate talent. Yun Yangyan watched the negotiation between Shi Feng and Long Chen at the trade fair and said faintly, "Cousin, what is the use of this falling flower deity jade? Why is Long Chen so determined to get his hands on it?" Yunqi Luo's eyes lit up and he said slowly, "I think it has something to do with the two women beside Long Chen. Why didn't the Falling Flower tribe come to the small spirit world this time? Among the 10 major tribes, they are the only ones who did not send anyone here. I think there must be something going on." "Then, do you want to investigate now?" Yun Yangyan said slowly. Yunqi Luo shook his head and said, "There's no hurry. When the trade fair is over, we will lead the people from the Lin Meng polar region to the ancient battlefield and deal with them. After that, we will leave the small spirit world. We don't need to worry about other things. We just need to complete the orders of the Lord Tao Ancestor. As long as the Lord Tao Ancestor is around, whether it's Long Chen or the people from the Lin Meng polar region, they won't be able to cause any trouble." Hearing this, Yun Yangyan looked thoughtful. Looking at the trade fair that was still going on as usual, Yun Yangyan murmured, "It's getting more and more interesting." Chapter 1814. In the trade fair, all kinds of spiritual treasures constantly attracted people's exclamations. Cloud Shield was now introducing a technique. According to the introduction, this technique came from a large tribe in the mountains tens of thousands of years ago. After Cloud Shield demonstrated it, there were some special points, which immediately caused the crowd to cheer. However, Long Chen was exceptionally calm in the face of a technique of this level. According to Long Chen's calculations, any one of the techniques that he was currently practicing was comparable to or even slightly superior to the technique that was being introduced at the trade fair. Furthermore, Long Chen had the dragon's tomb beside him. Moreover, Long Chen had not even reached the advanced level of the Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon technique that the Black Flame Dragon had imparted to him. It would be too difficult for him to learn another technique at this time. However, Long Chen wasn't interested in this technique. The others didn't have the same foundation as Long Chen. They were crazily obsessed with this level of technique. One should know that in this small spiritual world, especially when the spiritual world remains and the ancient battlefield were open, it was easy to find some elixirs and spiritual treasures. However, it was extremely difficult to find this kind of technique. The person who discovered this technique must have practiced it once. Regardless of his cultivation, he would be able to firmly record this technique in his mind. After that, he would be able to take it out and place it in the trade fair to make a huge profit. As for those who wanted the spells, they were more than willing to let them make a profit. After all, the techniques of the Hongmeng Yuan Jie could only be found by chance. The techniques in each tribe were limited. Even if one practiced all the techniques in the tribe, it was not certain that he could become stronger. After all, the techniques in each tribe were not necessarily the most suitable for him. Therefore, there were so many disputes between the tribes in the Hongmeng polar region. Most of the reasons were related to benefit. Soon, the price of this magical technique began to rise. Towards the end, the Hongmeng spiritual herbs were like worthless things on the street. As people spoke, they turned into a gust of cold wind. Long Chun occasionally glanced at the people who were fighting over this technique until their faces turned red. He couldn't help but smile in his heart. He thought that if he took out the techniques he had learned, it would probably make the people at the trade fair go crazy. Before Long Chen could think further, Long Mu seemed to have seen through Long Chen's thoughts. He said to himself, "If I see anyone who dares to auction the techniques of the Dragon Clan at the trade fair, I will be the first to kill him." Long Chen naturally knew what Long Mu meant. He snorted, and when Long Mu was not looking, he smiled and acted as if nothing had happened. In the end, this lost technique of the Mountain Forest tribe was sold for 15 upper-grade Hong Meng spiritual herbs and a wooden token that could save one's life. It was only then that Long Chun learned that the item Shifeng had used to escape wasn't a stone tablet, but a special kind of wooden tablet. Many primordial realm experts had infused the tablet with primordial energy, making it indestructible. In certain moments of crisis, the wooden tablet could temporarily block an enemy's attack, buying time for oneself to escape. From this, it could be seen that this wooden token was a life. Naturally, one could imagine how precious it was. The next few treasures did not catch Long Chen's fancy. However, when it came to the introduction of a treasure called the Splitting Mountain Axe, Long Chen's interest was piqued. Yun Shield looked at the Splitting Mountain Axe, which was half the height of a man, and said slowly, "This Splitting Mountain Axe was obtained by someone in the ancient battlefield. It is said that tens of thousands of years ago, it was one of the divine weapons of the Giant Rock tribe, one of the 10 great tribes in the polar region of Hong Meng. Now that the ancient battlefield has opened, this Splitting Mountain Axe has been successfully obtained. However, the person who obtained it is not a person who uses axes, so he brought it to the trade fair." As soon as he finished speaking, Huazhan, who was beside Long Chen, quickly said, "Brother Long Chen, the Giant Rock tribe that this person mentioned is the predecessor of the Rock tribe. I think the people of the Rock tribe will make a move on this Splitting Mountain Axe." Long Chen narrowed his eyes and said, "It's finally here. The Splitting Mountain Axe, interesting." Very quickly, before Yun Shield could finish his introduction, someone in the trade fair directly called out the price of 10 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Everyone looked over and saw that the person who called out the price was none other than Shifeng from the Rock tribe, who had a relationship with Long Chen. It seemed that Huazhan's guess was correct. Because the Rock tribe had a relationship with the Giant Rock tribe from tens of thousands of years ago, the moment Yun Shield introduced the Splitting Mountain Axe, the people of the Rock tribe could not help but make a move. This gave Long Chen a rough idea in his heart. Since the Rock tribe was determined to obtain the Splitting Mountain Axe, then the price they had to pay this time would be a little higher. Seeing that the Rock tribe was the first to make a bid, as well as 10 stalks of high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs, some of the people who wanted the Splitting Mountain Axe had no choice but to hide their intentions. After all, it wasn't worth it to offend the Rock tribe. However, to Long Chen, this was not difficult. At worst, he would offend the Rock tribe. Moreover, Long Chen and the Rock tribe already had an irreconcilable grudge. Even if Long Chen did not make a move, Shifeng of the Rock tribe would find a way to deal with Long Chen after the trade fair ended. Thinking about how Shifeng had forcefully raised the price of the falling flower god jade, Long Chen felt a burst of anger in his heart. 11 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Long Chen shouted in a clear voice. When the crowd found out that the person who bid against the Rock tribe was Long Chen, they immediately put on an expression of watching a good show. Shifeng looked at Long Chen with a gloomy face. In his heart, he had already guessed Long Chen's plan. He just wanted to trick him and make him pay a little more for the Splitting Mountain Axe. However, Shifeng's heart was vexed. This Splitting Mountain Axe, he was determined to obtain it. 12 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Shifeng replied indifferently. Long Chen smiled slightly and said, 15 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. As soon as these words came out, the crowd was in an uproar. One must know that the previous spell only cost 15 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Now, for this axe, Long Chen was willing to part with 15 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. If the guards were to compete with Shi Feng, then wasn't this bet a little too much? After all, Shi Feng had only bid 10 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs before stopping. Chapter 1815. Splitting Mountain Axe, page 1/1, and now, Long Chen directly called out the price of 15 Hong Meng elixirs. If Shi Feng stopped here, wouldn't Long Chen really get the Splitting Mountain Axe? However, after thinking about it, the Splitting Mountain Axe was one of the giant rock tribe's treasures for 10,000 years. If he could get it for 15 Hong Meng elixirs, it wouldn't be a loss. Tasting Book Mobile Terminal. How this matter would happen depended on whether the giant rock tribe would continue to call out the price. No matter what, 15 Hong Meng elixirs wasn't a small number. 16 Hong Meng elixirs. Shi Feng's expression was restrained, but his eyes revealed a murderous rage. If it wasn't for the tribe elder's request that Shi Feng find the Splitting Mountain Axe, Shi Feng would have already asked Long Chen to take out the 15 Hong Meng elixirs. After hearing Shi Feng's response, Long Chen turned to look at Shi Feng and smiled meaningfully. Then, he looked at the cloud shield in front of the trade fair and said loudly, 20 Hong Meng elixirs. As soon as his voice fell, the trade fair went into an uproar. 20 Hong Meng elixirs. It was likely that the people present had never seen so many elixirs in their lives. Even Long Chen didn't have so many elixirs. The rarity of these elixirs could be imagined. However, others didn't know whether Long Chen had them or not. In the cloud shield of the Green Cloud tribe, if he dared to call out, then he naturally had them. If he didn't, then the way to deal with him was simple. It was nothing more than killing him. Shi Feng couldn't hold back his anger. He immediately looked at Long Chen and said fiercely, "Kid, I advise you not to push your luck. Can you really take out 20 Hong Meng elixirs?" Long Chen shrugged and said slowly with an indifferent look, "What does it have to do with you whether I can take out 20 Hong Meng elixirs or not? I think this Splitting Mountain Axe is really good. When I get out of the small spirit world, it'll be perfect for me to chop firewood." As soon as Shi Feng finished speaking, a meaningful look appeared on his face. Everyone in the trade fair immediately burst into laughter. In reality, when Cloud Shield had introduced the Splitting Mountain Axe as a divine artifact of the Boulder tribe, these players had already realized why Shi Feng had come here. They were all natives of Hong Meng's polar region, so who wouldn't know the relationship between the Boulder tribe and the Rock tribe? At most, Shi Feng was afraid of the Rock tribe's strength, so he pretended to be deaf and mute. Moreover, Shi Feng had been quite open-minded from the start, directly offering 10 stalks of Hong Meng elixirs. He could be considered someone who could afford to take out the Splitting Mountain Axe. Satisfied. But now, Long Chen directly said that he was willing to use 20 Hong Meng elixirs to obtain the Splitting Mountain Axe and use it to chop firewood? The others didn't care. After all, the Splitting Mountain Axe didn't have much of a relationship with them. However, Shi Feng couldn't care so much. If he found the Boulder tribe's divine artifact, it would naturally become the Rock tribe's divine artifact. Perhaps it would even be treated as the tribe's treasure. And now, Long Chen had opened his mouth and said so. It was nothing more than a slap to the Rock tribe's face. If it weren't for the Green Cloud tribe maintaining the rules here, Shi Feng would have jumped up and fought with Long Chen. "You can't touch this Splitting Mountain Axe," Shi Feng said fiercely. Facing Shi Feng's deterrence, Long Chen laughed in his heart. He thought that Shi Feng had forgotten about the matter of him fleeing in a panic last night. Now, perhaps he was relying on the fact that his entire Rock tribe was here, and there were many people from the 10 major tribes who could help him. Only because he had reinforcements would he be so rampant. However, since this was the trade fair, no matter how angry Shi Feng was, he couldn't release it. After all, there were more than a dozen Hong Meng Tianjing experts from the Green Cloud tribe present. There were some things that the Green Cloud tribe could still suppress. Now, although Long Chen was clearly making things difficult for Shifeng, Long Chen didn't violate any of the trade fair's rules. Just like how Shifeng made things difficult for Long Chen, he had to let you know that this was a trap, but you still had to enter it. Enter. If you put out a price higher than 20 stalks of spirit herbs, I naturally can't touch it, Long Chen said slowly. After Long Chen finished speaking, the eyes of everyone in the trade fair turned to Shifeng. They wanted to see if Shifeng would put out a higher price than Long Chen. Shifeng and the Rock Tribe's people discussed for a long time. In the end, he looked at Long Chen with a gloomy expression and slowly said, 21 stalks of medium Hong Meng spirit herbs. Sogu's website. Chapter 1816. After the entanglement between Long Chen and Shifeng, the trade fair had to continue. The following soul treasures that appeared did not interest Long Chen at all. Even Long Yuan, who was beside him, was a little bored and kept saying that he wanted to leave. However, under Long Chen's careful observation of the 20-plus white light clusters that the cloud shield had released at the beginning, only 6 remained. Some of the tribes had not made a move since the start of the trade fair. Regardless of how shocking the soul treasures that had appeared earlier were, they remained indifferent. Moreover, it was not as if these tribes were unable to take out spiritual medicines. Clearly, they were hoping for the even more mysterious soul treasures that appeared after these soul treasures, which were even more worthy of being exclaimed by others. Just as Long Chen had expected, each of the remaining 6 white balls of light was a soul treasure that would cause everyone present to exclaim in shock. The large tribes that had been silent for a long time, the top 10 tribes, also began to move. Very soon, the large tribes were rich and imposing. After the introduction of the cloud shield, it was more or less the time for the owner to be decided. This was also due to the strength of these large tribes. Not many people were willing to take the initiative to provoke a large tribe, or even the 10 great tribes. After all, not everyone had the ability like Long Chen. Very soon, there were only 2 balls of light left in the air. At this time, the atmosphere in the trade fair did not calm down. Instead, it became even more tense. Everyone knew that the last 2 balls of light naturally contained the thicker and heavier soul treasures. Although many people did not have the strength to take down the soul treasures, there was no harm in taking a look and widening one's horizons. The white ball of light was summoned to the cloud shield's side. Very soon, the cloud shield let the white ball of light fall to the ground. Then, following the Hong Meng around the cloud shield, the white ball of light slowly disappeared. What appeared was actually a huge object. Long Chen couldn't see it clearly, but he could vaguely sense a sense of déjà vu from this sword exchange numinous treasure. This feeling was very subtle. Long Chen had clearly seen it before, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't grasp this power. Where did this power come from? Where had Long Chen seen it before? Long Chen was even more confused. As the white ball of light completely disappeared, Long Chen's numerous questions also disappeared. It turned out that there was a skeleton within the white ball of light. To be able to make Long Chen so familiar, it was naturally not any other skeleton. It was the skeleton of the ice spirit ghost wolf that Long Chen had summoned before. When the skeleton of the ice spirit ghost wolf unfolded beside Yun's shield, Long Chen was pleasantly surprised. Although he did not know what was in the skeleton of the ice spirit ghost wolf, when Long Chen saw it, he was very affectionate, as if he had seen his long-lost family member. After all, the ice spirit ghost wolf had helped him to successfully defend himself from the siege of a group of people, thus allowing him to successfully enter the land of inheritance of the Xianyan tribe. That was why he had achieved what he had today. Seeing this scene, Long Mu immediately reminded Long Chen, "Long Chen, I can clearly feel that there is the bloodline power of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf in this skeleton. If you can obtain it, you will definitely be able to summon a real Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf again. This kind of life-saving means is 1 in a million. Didn't you face so many people last time because of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf? Really? Hearing this, Long Chen's eyes immediately lit up. If what Long Mu said was true, and he used the bloodline power of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf in this skeleton to summon another Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf, then Long Che would have the ability to challenge the experts of Hong Meng Tianjing. Previously, because Long Chen did not have the bloodline power of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf, he could only give up this powerful trump card. Although he had the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf, he could only release the icy aura to seal the space. Now, if the bloodline power of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf in this skeleton was enough, Long Chen would be able to summon as many Ice Spirit Ghost Wolves as possible at the same time. This was equivalent to 3 experts of Hong Meng Tianjing. As long as he did not provoke the abnormal lineup of the Blue Cloud tribe, Long Chen would have a chance of winning no matter which force he faced. The skeleton of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf was displayed beside Yun's shield. Everyone could vaguely feel the icy aura emitted from this skeleton. Just this scene alone caused many people's expressions to change. Many of them did not know about the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf. After all, the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf had been extinct for too long. These people were in the polar regions of Hongmeng, and they did not know that such a demonic beast like the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf had once existed. In this small spiritual world, the only place where the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf existed was the spiritual world ruins in the small spiritual world. Therefore, these people who mingled in the ancient battlefield naturally did not know the origin of the icy aura emitted from this skeleton. Yun's shield slowly said, "This skeleton is the legendary Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf. The icy aura emitted from it comes from the bloodline of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf. If this bloodline power can be taken away, it will be an extremely icy energy. Controlling this energy will increase one's strength by a lot." As soon as he finished speaking, those who were originally yearning for the icy aura of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf's skeleton immediately gave up. This was not their fault. Yun's shield's introduction was a little weak. Moreover, even if they obtained the bloodline power of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf, they would not be able to maximize their benefits without Long Chen's inheritance of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf's summoning method and the power of the origin Ice Soul. In other words, although this thing seemed to have endless power, it was actually useless to them. Now that there were only 2 items left in the trade fair, anyone would feel distressed if they spent their resources on such a useless thing. Therefore, after Yun's shield finished speaking, no one was willing to make a bid for a long time. In the distance of the trade fair, Yun Yang Yen asked Yun Chi Luo, "Cousin, since the skeleton of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf is not worthy of their attention, why did you let it in?" Yun Chi Luo shook his head and said, "In the end, these people do not know the value of the Ice Spirit Ghost Wolf skeleton. If the old men of the various tribes outside saw this skeleton, they would probably disregard their reputation and snatch it. No one would be able to stop them." Chapter 1817. Yun Yang Yen did not understand and quickly asked, "Why is that? Didn't Brother Yun's shield say that even if one obtains the power of the bloodline in the skeleton, it will only increase one's strength a little? Other than that, it will be useless." Yun Chi Luo shook his head and said, "It's normal that you don't understand, and it's normal that the people below don't know. It would be abnormal if they could realize the preciousness of the Ice Spirit Wolf skeleton in this small spiritual world." After saying that, Yun Chi Luo smiled and looked at the trade fair. He wanted to see if there was anyone who had the ability to recognize the treasure. Long Chen frowned. Previously, he had used 11 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs to trade for the Falling Flower Divine Jade. Now, Long Yuan was left with only 15 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. Although it was profitable for him to use the elixirs to exchange for the skeleton of the ice spirit wolf, Long Chen was a little worried. Would he be able to get the skeleton with 15 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs? Would the other people at the trade fair also know the specific function of the ice spirit wolf? This concern was dispelled in the end. There was no other reason other than the fact that the trade fair had become too quiet after Cloud Shield's words left his mouth. Obviously, these people were not familiar with the ice spirit wolf and did not know its real function, including its true strength. To Long Chen, such a situation was undoubtedly the best thing that could happen. Now that Long Chen had made a name for himself in the small spiritual world, the enemies he would face in the future were either large tribes or the top 10 tribes. Moreover, there were also the sneaky people in Lin Meng's polar region. These people's strength surpassed Long Chen's. Long Chen had to constantly improve his strength to be foolproof. The skeleton in front of him was naturally something that Long Chen was determined to get. After all, Long Chen already had the method to summon the ice spirit wolf and the necessary material to make it, the origin ice spirit. All of these were the prerequisites for Long Chen to obtain the skeleton of the ice spirit wolf. Because the others did not have such prerequisites, even if they knew that the skeleton was not ordinary, they did not dare to take the risk and spend their resources on it. At the trade fair, many large tribes were whispering and discussing in low voices. Even the people from the top 10 tribes were a little hesitant. Yunqi Luo looked at the people at the trade fair. He was not anxious at all. It was as if this matter had nothing to do with him. In fact, the skeleton of the ice spirit wolf was collected by Yunqi Luo somewhere in the small spiritual world. The reason why he brought it to the trade fair was that, on the one hand, Yunqi Luo had no use for it. On the other hand, Yunqi Luo wanted to see if there was anyone in the small spiritual world who was as talented as him. As Yunqi Luo had said before, if the skeleton was brought to Hong Meng's polar region, especially to the elders of the top 10 tribes, they might really go crazy for it. After all, these elders were all old monsters. Naturally, they had an impression of the ice spirit wolf. What was even more amazing was the method to summon the ice spirit wolf. Therefore, in the eyes of these monsters, the skeleton was a genuine Hong Meng Tianjing expert. Imagine how profitable it was for a tribe to have a Hong Meng Tianjing expert so easily. Unfortunately, most of the people in the small spiritual world did not know what was good for them. After a long silence, someone finally spoke at the trade fair. After a long discussion, a large tribe shouted, "A top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicine." People could see that this large tribe was actually making a plan. Even if it was useless, it was better than nothing. A top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicine was really not a big loss. It was just a small change. They could completely pretend that the high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herb had never appeared in the first place. What they had obtained was a skeleton that could be of great use to them. In this situation, Yunqi Luo also had a way to deal with it. If someone dared to be opportunistic and offered a very low price for the skeleton, Yunqi Luo would tell the other party that the owner of the skeleton, Yunqi Luo, hoped that the skeleton could be exchanged for at least 10 top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicines. If not, he would rather not make this deal. Thinking about it, with the power of the Green Cloud tribe, the other party would not dare to say anything. If they were not willing to take out 10 top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicines, then they would not be able to take away the skeleton. Therefore, when Yunqi Luo heard that a large tribe was bidding for a top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicine, his expression was still as calm as an ancient well. Long Chen naturally knew the value of the skeleton, and also saw the plan of the large tribe. Therefore, if Long Chen wanted to obtain the skeleton, he had to offer a stable price. Not only would this price be enough to deter those large tribes with ulterior motives, but it also had to satisfy the owner of the skeleton. Therefore, Long Chen pondered for a moment before shouting, 10 stalks of high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs. Long Chen understood in his heart that even if he spent all of his wealth on this skeleton, he would still be able to make a profit. However, it was better to save as much as possible. 10 stalks of high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs were enough to make those people shrink back at the sight of him. When people heard Long Chen shout out the price of 10 top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicines, there was a burst of whispers. They knew that Long Chen had no relationship with the tribe that bid for a top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicine. Long Chen's strange behavior was really worth pondering. Yunqi Luo looked directly at Long Chen, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. After a long time, he slowly said, "Long Chen, you are really not simple." Yun Yangyan stood at the side, listening in confusion. It was as if the trade fair had become completely different after the skeleton of the ice spirit ghost wolf had appeared. However, in this way it seemed to be more interesting. In the face of Long Chen's 10 top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicines, the large tribes that had been ready to make a move had completely given up on the idea of bidding. After all, it was not worthwhile to spend more than 10 top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicines for a skeleton that they did not know the details of. Furthermore, there was still the last spiritual treasure. Since the Grey Cloud tribe had placed it as the last item to be displayed, they must have some unusual plans. In this way, after a long silence, Long Chen successfully obtained the skeleton of the ice spirit ghost wolf with the price of 10 top-grade Hong Meng spiritual medicines. Chapter 1818. The people of the Green Cloud tribe came to check Long Chen's Hong Meng elixirs. Then, they handed the skeleton of the ice spirit wolf to Long Chen. Long Chen accepted the skeleton with a look of joy on his face. When he touched the skeleton, Long Chen faintly felt that the bloodline power of the ice spirit wolf was contained in the skeleton. Perhaps it was because of the ancient times when he had successfully summoned the ice spirit wolf. Long Chen's yearning for this bloodline power was so strong that Long Chen could not control his expression. Long Chen's joy was seen by the people at the trade fair. Most of them were confused. Few people thought that Long Chen had a crucial connection with the ice spirit wolf, and that was the ice soul source. As the owner of the skeleton of the ice spirit wolf, Yunqi Luo knew that if he made good use of the skeleton, it would definitely be a powerful Hong Meng Tianjing expert. However, even if Yunqi Luo knew about this, he could still obtain the method to create the real ice spirit wolf. However, he did not activate the ice soul source to revive the ice spirit wolf. Without such a thing, everything that was valuable was just empty talk. Therefore, Yunqi Luo placed the skeleton at the trade fair. It was in this way that the skeleton met a fated person, Long Chen. At this time, although Yunqi Luo did not consider this point, more or less, Long Chen's actions had attracted his attention. Presumably, Yunqi Luo would pay more attention to Long Chen's next actions. After the successful transaction of the ice spirit wolf skeleton, the people at the trade fair finally reached the most exciting moment. There was no other reason other than the fact that at this time, there was only one last white ball in the sky. There was only one last white ball of light left. In other words, this was the last numinous treasure of the trade fair. No matter what, for it to be placed last, this spirit treasure must be very impressive. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd at the trade fair, Yun Shield's calm face gradually changed at this moment. He slowly looked at the last white ball of light in the air and nodded slightly. After that, Cloud Shield said to the crowd at the trade fair, "The next item is the last spiritual treasure of this trade fair. I think some of you have received the news in advance, so I won't keep you guessing. Just like the rumors outside, the last spiritual treasure is indeed a Hong Meng firmament spell." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone at the trade fair cheered. It should be known that every Hong Meng firmament spell was unique. It could only be created by someone who had been immersed in Hong Meng Tianjing for a long time and had the ability to break through to the Tao ancestor realm. In the entire Hong-Meng polar region, many of the so-called large tribes could only rely on methods similar to the Hong-Meng firmament spell to keep up appearances. As for the real Hong-Meng firmament spell, they had never possessed it. The tribes that could possess the Hong-Meng firmament spell were, without exception, the top 10 tribes in the Hong-Meng polar region. After all, to a certain extent, with the Hong-Meng firmament spell, there would be a Hong-Meng Tianjing expert who was likely to be promoted to the Tao ancestor realm. Under normal circumstances, the Hong-Meng firmament spell was regarded as a treasure by the large tribes. Except for the oral transmission, it was impossible for the Hong-Meng Tianjing expert to condense the Hong-Meng Qi wave like today. After all, the possibility of leakage had to be considered. Therefore, in the entire Hong-Meng polar region, there were very few people who were lucky enough to practice and master the Hong-Meng firmament spell. Now, after Yun Shield finished speaking, he cast the Hong-Meng spell toward the white light ball. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Hong-Meng firmament spell, which was called the Hong-Meng firmament spell by Yun Shield, faded the white light ball around it in midair, and then turned into a section of Hong-Meng Qi wave vaguely. Long Chen understood that this Qi wave was a unique Hong-Meng storage method. Almost only the Hong-Meng Tianjing experts and above could possess this ability. They could transform a section of information into Hong-Meng Qi wave, and condense this Hong-Meng Qi wave into a visible Qi wave, so that it could be stored for a long time. In other words, this spiritual treasure known as the primordial heavens art was extremely real in everyone's eyes at this very moment. Otherwise, how could the Hong-Meng Tianjing experts be so bored as to make an empty Hong-Meng Qi wave? In other words, the people present today really had the opportunity to see this Hong-Meng firmament spell. When the atmosphere at the trade fair became a little more stable, Yun Dun said slowly, "I think you don't quite believe that this is the real Hong-Meng firmament spell." At first, neither did our Green Cloud tribe. However, after many verifications, we confirmed that there is indeed a Hong-Meng firmament spell in this Qi wave. According to the description of the person who obtained this Hong-Meng firmament spell, it was found next to a Hong-Meng Tianjing expert who had his soul destroyed in the ancient battlefield. It seems that after the battle of the small spiritual world 10,000 years ago, this dying senior could not bear to see the Hong-Meng firmament spell he created disappear, so he kept it. Therefore, today, this Hong-Meng Qi wave has the opportunity to meet you. Since our Green Cloud tribe is hosting this trade fair, there is no need for us to deceive you. Although the Hong-Meng firmament spell in this Hong-Meng Qi wave has been spied on by others, the information in it is still intact. If someone obtains it, he or she can still extract the information contained in it through the Hong-Meng Qi wave and practice this Hong-Meng firmament spell, Yun Dun said slowly, looking a little excited. This Hong-Meng firmament spell is called the Great Vajra Sutra. It was created by the Vajra tribe, one of the top 10 tribes tens of thousands of years ago. Although the Vajra tribe has become a joke in the Hong-Meng polar region, it is undeniable that tens of thousands of years ago, the Vajra tribe had the courage to challenge the entire Hong-Meng polar region with this Great Vajra Sutra. Yun Dun said solemnly, "Now, I announce that the trade for this Great Vajra Sutra will begin." The name Great Vajra Sutra made Long Chen feel a sense of grandeur. Although he had no recollection of the Vajra tribe mentioned by Yun Dun, the power of this Great Vajra Sutra should not be underestimated, since it could become one of the top 10 tribes in the Hong-Meng polar region tens of thousands of years ago. Because of this, the large tribes that came to the trade fair were finally going to make a move. Chapter 1819. Although Long Chen didn't know that the Great Vajra Mantra would be available at this trade fair, it didn't affect Long Chen in general. The Great Vajra Mantra, the Hong-Meng firmament art, was definitely the reason why the 10 major tribes had come here. Even if Long Chen had known about the existence of the Great Vajra Mantra, he wouldn't have thought too much about it. Firstly, Long Chen's current strength was still in the Hong Meng Yuan Jia realm. A technique like the Great Vajra Mantra wouldn't be of much use to him at the moment, and he might not even be able to cultivate it. Secondly, since so many large tribes had come to this trade fair to covet the Great Vajra Mantra, they must have made preparations early on. The resources they brought with them would definitely surpass Long Chen's. Wanting to obtain the Great Vajra Mantra by himself at the trade fair was tantamount to a fool's dream. Therefore, Long Chen didn't have any plans for the Great Vajra Mantra. However, Long Chen wanted to see what the people from the 10 major tribes planned to do with the Great Vajra Mantra. Soon, the people from the large tribes who had been silent and motionless gathered one after another after the appearance of the Great Vajra Mantra. The people from the Blue Ocean tribe were obviously prepared to bid, and the almost silent Hong Meng firmament art was also discussing something in a low voice. It had to be said that the temptation of the Hong Meng firmament art was too great. Thinking about it, if the Hong Meng firmament art was so scarce in the polar region of Hong Meng, then these Hong Meng Tianjing experts from the 10 major tribes probably didn't practice much of the Hong Meng firmament art. In fact, they probably didn't even practice the Hong Meng firmament art. Now, in this small spiritual world, if they could meet one, even if they used all their financial resources, as long as they could obtain it, their strength would definitely increase steadily. As long as their strength increased, they would be able to get whatever resources they wanted in the future. It was an obvious cycle. Thinking about it, all the Hong Meng Tianjing experts present had this idea. 20 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and a Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. Just as Long Chen expected, after a short discussion, the people from the Red Sun tribe seemed like they had been waiting for a long time. They couldn't wait, they called out their price. When he heard this number, even Long Chen couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The moment he opened his mouth, he naturally couldn't set the price too high. He didn't want to waste too much money in the future. The Red Sun tribe's Hong Tianhua was the first to speak. Moreover, the first thing he said was the most basic price of 20 high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs and a Grand Mist primordial world realm technique. One had to know that at the beginning of the trade fair, a Grand Mist primordial world technique, called the Sacred Desolation Art, was traded for 20 high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs. If the Grand Mist primordial world technique Hong Tianhua was talking about was comparable to the Sacred Desolation Art, then Hong Tianhua's valuation of the Great Vajra Art was 40 high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs, 40 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs. This slightly shocking number made Long Chen click his tongue. In this small spiritual world, although there were many elixirs, high-grade Hong Meng elixirs were still hard to come by. Taking out 40 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs in one go, even for Long Chen, who had been to the mysterious Flame tribe before, felt a little incredulous. 25 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and a Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. Before the people present could calm down, a voice came from an inconspicuous place in the crowd. Come to think of it, the Red Sun tribe was also a large tribe. Although it wasn't as conspicuous as the top 10 tribes, it had a strong foundation and strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to offer 5 high-grade Grand Mist spiritual herbs more than the Red Sun tribe. Hong Tianhua was not angry. He looked at the people in front of him like a gentleman and then shouted, 30 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and a Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. It was too late for the crowd to be in an uproar. They all knew that anyone who had paid the price for the Great Vajra scripture was determined to get it. As long as they had resources, they would not give up the Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. Just as Hong Tianhua finished speaking, someone from the Blue Ocean tribe also spoke. It was Hai Qinyan, whom Long Chen had met before. Hai Qinyan first nodded at Hong Tianhua of the Red Sun tribe, then looked at the tribe that had bid with Hong Tianhua. He smiled and shouted, 50 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and a Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. The price that Hai Qinyan proposed would have set off a storm in the trading area if it had been in the past. However, Now that everyone had experienced the storm, everyone knew that 50 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs was just the beginning. Long Chen's expression was calm. He had no intention of interfering as he watched the fight between the 10 great tribes. After all, he did not have the foundation and resources of the 10 great tribes. Moreover, if he accidentally offended one of the empires in this fight for the great Vajra skill, it would not be worth it. 45 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and 2 Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. After Hai Qinyan, someone else quickly followed up with a new price. However, the person who followed up was not the Red Sun tribe or the previous large tribe, but another force. It seemed that there were more people who coveted the great Vajra scripture than those who jumped out in the open. Hong Tianhua stood up and said in a clear voice, "Everyone, please listen to me. Since we are all reputable people who have taken a fancy to the great Vajra scripture, there is no need for us to harm each other. The highest price that my Red Sun tribe can offer is 70 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and 2 steps of the Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. Whoever offers a higher price than me, feel free to speak." As soon as Hong Tianhua said this, the trading area quieted down. The 2 large tribes who had made the first bid did not say anything. Obviously, they had lost to Hong Tianhua in terms of resources. Just as Hong Tianhua was determined to win, Hai Qinyan of the Blue Ocean tribe said in a low voice, 75 high-grade Hong Meng elixirs and 2 steps of the Hong Meng Yuan Jia art. Finally, the price was set on Hai Qinyan. Hai Qinyan obtained the great Vajra scripture as he wished. His expression was calm, as if he did not suffer from the loss of so many resources. After that, the trading area came to an end with the successful transactions of dozens of spirit treasures. Chapter 1820. The dozens of spiritual treasures had been settled, and it was reasonable to say that the trade fair was over. After all, there was only a month left before the opening of the small spiritual world. In a few days, the connecting passage between the small spiritual world and the polar region of Hong Meng would be opened from the outside world. The passage would last for a month, and if they had not left the small spiritual world after a month, they would have to spend hundreds of years in the small spiritual world. Therefore, everyone wanted to take advantage of this last month to seek as many opportunities as possible so that their trip to the small spirit realm would be a little more meaningful. Whoosh! However, just as the people at the trade fair were about to turn around and leave, a burst of cold Hong Meng power suddenly rose in the trade fair. At the same time, the dozens of Hong Meng Tianjing experts of the Green Cloud tribe appeared at the same time. A red barrier suddenly swept out in midair, blocking everyone's way. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. Long Chen saw this scene and was a little confused for a moment. Could it be that the Green Cloud tribe wanted to take back the dozens of spiritual treasures? The people at the trade fair were also in a panic. The barrier set up by the dozens of Hong Meng Tianjing experts could not be broken in such a short time. While the people were in a panic, they saw that Yun Shield of the Green Cloud tribe was still in the trade fair. He stood by the side calmly. Immediately, there were people who asked at the same time, "What does the Green Cloud tribe mean? Why don't you let me leave? Are you taking advantage of your power to bully others?" Those who came to the trade fair today were at least Hong Meng Yuan Jia experts. Moreover, there were many Hong Meng Tianjing experts at the trade fair. Naturally, they were not afraid of the Green Cloud tribe. Yunqi Luo's figure slowly appeared and landed beside Yun Shield. After that, Yunqi Luo looked at the dozens of Hong Meng Tianjing experts, nodded, and took the barrier that trapped the crowd and disappeared. Yunqi Luo said loudly, "Since you are all from the polar region of Hong Meng, please stay for a while. I, Yunqi Luo, have something to say." In any case, Yunqi Luo was considered the person with the highest cultivation realm in the small spirit realm. Since he was the one who spoke, Even if the Pale Cloud tribe had done something unreasonable previously, people still had to give him some face. After all, he had also mentioned that he was from the primordial polar region. Haiqing Luo's Hongmeng Tianjing was the Hongmeng Tianjing, so he could speak to Yunqi Luo. Luo, brother, what is it, brother Luo? Everyone at Luo, everyone at the trade fair looked Luo. Was Luo translation everyone? Yunqi Luo nodded to Haiqing Luo, then looked at the crowd and said, Everyone, the Green Cloud tribe has just received news from the outside. It is said that a group of people from the polar region of Linmeng has sneaked into the small spiritual world where we are now. As soon as he said this, Long Chen immediately trembled. Yunqi Luo knew that people from the polar region of Linmeng were from the polar region of Linmeng? Now Yunqi Luo asked everyone present to stay so straightforwardly. What did he want to say? Perhaps, as the strongest person in the small spiritual world and his background was the Green Cloud tribe, the most powerful tribe in the polar region of Hongmeng, Yunqi Luo already knew the purpose of the people from the polar region of Linmeng? Long Chen was not very interested in this matter. In his original plan, after leaving the spiritual world relics, he would go to the ancient battlefield in the far north of the small spiritual world to see if he could find traces of the Jian Shisan. After finding the Jian Shisan, he would leave the small spiritual world and go to the polar region of Longmeng, which had been abandoned for 100,000 years, with Long Mu. After that, he would go to the polar region of Hongmeng to plan the revival of the Hongmeng dragon tribe. As for who the small spiritual world would belong to in the future, whether it would belong to the Hongmeng polar region or the polar region of Linmeng, Long Chen did not care. After all, Long Chen was not from the 9 polar region at all, and he had no feelings for his hometown. If Yunqi Luo now knew which mysterious organization in the polar region of Linmeng was planning something, then the purpose of the people present at the trade fair must be to discuss how to deal with the mysterious organization in the polar region of Linmeng. The people at the trade fair naturally did not know what the mysterious organization in the polar region of Linmeng was planning. After hearing Yunqi Luo's words, they had a look of disapproval. Because the small spiritual world opened in advance this time, all the major cities were not prepared at all, so they did not refuse anyone. Since that's the case, it's inevitable that a few people from the Linmeng polar region would sneak in. After all, the people from the Linmeng polar region love to take advantage of loopholes. Hong Tianhua shrugged and said casually. As an expert in the Hongmeng Tianjing, Hong Tianhua naturally had the right to speak. Everyone nodded in agreement with Hong Tianhua's explanation. Hai Qinyan frowned and realized that the matter was not simple. This group of people from the polar region of Linmeng, since they entered the small spiritual world, began to plan something unknown. This is also because the Green Cloud tribe found something unusual in the polar region of Hongmeng, so we followed the clues and got the news. Yunqi Luo continued, You may not believe what this group of people is planning. Even I was a little shocked at first. It turns out that what they are planning is to build a big formation hub everywhere in the small spiritual world. Since the small spiritual world opened for more than 4 months, there are already more than 400 big formation hubs in the small spiritual world. Everyone looked at Yunqi Luo with a solemn expression. They no longer questioned him willfully, but gradually became serious. They also began to pay attention to what Yunqi Luo had said. Immediately, someone asked, What are the functions of these big formation hubs? Yunqi Luo said, The big formation hubs they set up in the small spiritual world are connected to a big formation base at the junction between the polar region of Hongmeng and the polar region of Linmeng. If all the hubs in the small spiritual world are completed, the people from the polar region of Linmeng will be able to pull the small spiritual world to their polar region through this big formation. As soon as these words came out, the whole trade fair fell into silence. Although the people at the trade fair did not seem to get along well with each other, and even had some grievances with each other. However, when it came to the small spiritual world, everyone showed a worried look. After all, the small spiritual world appeared in the polar region of Hongmeng every 1,200 years. Every time it appeared, it was a gathering of the tribes in the polar region of Hongmeng. Now, the people from the polar region of Linmeng wanted to take the small spiritual world away. These people, who were born and raised in the polar region of Hongmeng, naturally would not agree. Chapter 1821. Zhu Xin's message, page 1/1. Everyone in the trade fair was indignant after hearing Yunqi Luo's words. These bastards in the Linmeng polar region need to be taught a lesson. How dare they covet the small spiritual world? They really don't want to live anymore. If they have the ability, they can rob it openly. Only the Linmeng polar region can make such a secret plan. In the Linmeng polar region, the Tao God Divine Pagoda is the most powerful force. I think it must be organized by them. Everyone was talking at once, expressing their opinions on Linmeng's plan for the polar region. Hai Qinyan thought for a while and said to Yunqi Luo, "Brother Qi Luo, do you have more information?" Upon hearing this, the trade fair immediately quieted down. Everyone looked at Yunqi Luo, waiting for more information from him. Yunqi Luo said slowly, "This crisis can be regarded as a battle between the Hongmeng polar region and the Linmeng polar region. There must be no mistakes. If we fail, we will lose the small spiritual world that has brought us countless opportunities for tens of thousands of years. Therefore, as one of the top 10 tribes, we have gathered the top 10 tribes and many large tribes in the Hongmeng polar region to discuss a plan together. This war is unavoidable. For this reason, the 10 major tribes of the Hongmeng polar region will definitely be the vanguard. This is also the strategy that the 10 major tribes have discussed together. Perhaps none of the 10 major tribes present here have the same idea. Perhaps the top 10 tribes in the Linmeng polar region have received the news because they are afraid that the whole plan will be leaked and known by the people in the Linmeng polar region. Yunqi Luo's expression became a little excited as he spoke. Yunqi Luo continued, "Outside the small spiritual world, there is one of the top 10 tribes that did not enter the small spiritual world this time. The Falling Flower tribe will send people to the junction between the Hongmeng polar region and the Linmeng polar region to destroy the foundation of the big formation. At the same time, other tribes in the Hongmeng polar region are also preparing to organize teams to go to the Tao God Divine Pagoda in the Linmeng polar region to declare war. What we need to do in this small spirit realm is to destroy the formation hub that Linmeng has constructed over the past 4 months as much as possible. I've already notified all the large tribes in the small spirit world, and they've already begun to take action." Everyone listened attentively. Long Chen was also somewhat curious, although this matter had nothing to do with him, but thinking about it, the impending battle between the two forces would be a thrilling scene. Yunqi Luo looked confident and said, "At this moment, the 10 tribes in the small spiritual world have to do more difficult things because of their overall strength. Other than the Tianfeng tribe and Zishu tribe that I haven't contacted yet. Me too. I've already notified the Nanyang tribe, Lingyu tribe, and Fang Siyuan tribe that are not in this gathering place. Now they've gone to find the organization in Linmeng's polar region and have begun to hunt them down. Now, I'm telling you these things because I hope that the 10 tribes present here can temporarily give up on cultivating in this small spiritual world and fight against the people from the Linmeng polar region together with my Pale Cloud tribe. I also hope that the large tribes present here can begin to search everywhere and strive to find the big formation hubs built by the people from the Linmeng polar region. Only when we work together can we truly protect our small spiritual world." Yun Qiu said. "Baisu Yu Yang? Bryce, it really had an inspirational effect. Soon, the people at the trade fair responded. One by one, they began to rub their fists and prepare for the upcoming battle. Among these people, perhaps only the people from the Blue Ocean tribe were relatively calm. Hai Qingling and Hai Qingyan whispered to each other for a while. Hai Qingyan asked, "Brother Qiluo, do you know the strength of the people from Lin Meng's polar region in the small spirit realm?" Hai Qingyan's question attracted a lot of attention. If they wanted to fight, they had to know their opponent's cultivation realm in advance. Otherwise, if a group of people from the Hong Meng primordial realm went up against a group of people from the Hong Meng firmament realm, there would be no way for them to fight. Long Chen knew the strength of Lin Meng's polar region. The two mysterious people he met last time were only the lowest members of Lin Meng's polar region. They were the experts from Hong Meng Tianjing. It seemed that Lin Meng's polar region had put in a lot of effort in planning this. They had put in a lot of effort. Yun Qiluo nodded and said, "According to the news, the people who have entered the small spirit realm this time are the elites of Lin Meng's polar region's Dao God Pagoda. Among them are the geniuses of Lin Meng's polar region for the past 100 years. It can be said that the lineup is luxurious. Among them, there is a genius from Dao God Pagoda who has the strength of the 8th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. It is said that he is the next pagoda master of Dao God Pagoda, Zhu Ziyin." As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chen felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned in the trade fair. He never thought that he would hear the name Zhu Ziyin again from Yun Qiluo. The last time he heard about Zhu Ziyin, it was Jian Shisan who told him personally. At that time, Jian Shisan only said that Zhu Ziyin might have joined a force and did not say much. But now Yun Qiluo actually said that in the small spirit realm, Lin Meng's polar region, the leader of Dao God Pagoda was Zhu Ziyin? If this Zhu Ziyin was really the Zhu Ziyin that Long Chen knew, his strength was in line with the growth of Long Chen and Zhu Ziyin in the hundreds of years since they were separated. In the hundreds of years, Long Chen had been seriously injured by the people of the sacred sect and had to recuperate for 400 years. As a result, he had fallen behind in his cultivation. Jian Shisan was obsessed with swordsmanship and had no time to care about his cultivation realm. Therefore, he did not improve much. However, according to his divine phoenix body, if he had persevered in cultivation for the past hundreds of years, he might have been able to reach the 8th level of Hong Meng Tianjing's strength. If this was what Long Chen thought, then Long Chen's itinerary would have to be changed. This time, Long Chen had to participate in the battle between Hong Meng Polar Region and Lin Meng Polar Region regarding the small spirit realm. Long Mu frowned and said, "Zhu Ziyin is your other disciple?" Long Chen nodded and said, "That's right. If he's really the Zhu Ziyin I know, then we can't just watch this battle. I have to find Zhu Ziyin. He's my disciple, so he'll definitely listen to me. Now that he is the next pagoda master of Dao God Pagoda, if we can get his help, our future plans will be much smoother." While the people at the trade fair were discussing how to proceed with the next step of the plan, several pairs of eyes were already fixed on them in midair. Sogu's reading website. Chapter 1822. Long Chen was shocked. He did not know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. However, according to Long Chen's understanding of Zhu Ziyin would definitely help Long Chen in the future and increase his combat power. However, the Pale Cloud tribe said that there were nearly 400 big formation hubs in the small spirit world, all set up by the people of the Lin Meng Polar region so that they could transfer the small spirit world to the Lin Meng Polar region in the future. Long Chen suddenly remembered the two mysterious people. The secret, they said, was about the transfer of the small spirit world. Unfortunately, Long Chen did not hear it at that time, but he was still hunted down by them, which led to the subsequent events. No matter what, the small spirit world belongs to the Hong Meng Polar region. Naturally, we can't let the Lin Meng Polar region's plan succeed. However, we can't let the Lin Meng polar region's plan be destroyed too thoroughly. Long Chen rubbed his chin and smiled slightly. He had a plan in mind. Everyone, think about the small spirit world. How can we give up such a precious place? If there are no objections, please do your best to destroy the big formation hubs set up by the Lin Meng polar region in the small spirit world, Yun Qi Luo said with a solemn expression. The people of the various tribes in the gathering place hesitated for a moment. Suddenly, there were whispers as they discussed. After a while, the people of the Blue Sea tribe stood up first and said, "Brother Qi Luo, the Blue Sea tribe is willing to work for the small spirit world." "Well, thank you, Brother Qingyan." Yun Qi Luo looked at Hai Qingyan with gratitude. With Hai Qingyan's voice and the dozens of Hong Meng Tianjing experts sent by the Pale Cloud tribe, everyone agreed to do their best for the small spirit world and compete with the Lin Meng polar region for the small spirit world. "Thank you for giving the Pale Cloud tribe face. In that case, I won't be polite," Yun Qi Luo said. With a wave of his hand, sparkling light spots scattered and immediately fell into the hands of everyone present. The sparkling and translucent light dissipated, revealing a disc spirit treasure. There was a tiny pointer in the disc. This spirit treasure is the key to this mission. With it, you can sense the location of the big matrix's core and then destroy it, Yun Qi Luo said. Everyone in the Ash Cloud tribe had one. Immediately, after Yun Qi Luo had distributed the disc spirit treasures, the Green Cloud tribe was the first to set off. Their figures moved and disappeared from where they were. Then, the people of the Blue Ocean tribe disappeared as well. Under the lead of these two big tribes, the other big tribes also started to move. One after another, silhouettes disappeared from their original places. Even Shi Feng and the others from the Rock tribe glared fiercely at Long Chen's group before disappearing from the encampment. "Long Chen, I hope you don't run into our Shi Feng. Otherwise, we will definitely take revenge for last night." After saying so, the Rock tribe members transformed into streaks of light and left under Shi Feng's lead. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Long Yuan was agitated as he spoke. "Should we go?" Hua Zhan asked as he observed Long Chen's expression. "Of course we should go. This trip will be of great help to me," Long Chen said and immediately set off. Long Mu and the others followed. After a while, there were only a few people left in the original encampment. More than half of them had disappeared. The remaining people were still hesitating. They were individual cultivators from the polar regions of Hong Meng. However, they had obtained a lot of treasures and opportunities in the small spirit world. After careful consideration, they did not intend to give up the small spirit world to Lin Meng, so they set off as well. There was no one else in the encampment. Long Chen and the others kept moving toward the southeast of the encampment. The pointer of the disc spirit treasure in their hands kept pointing toward the southeast, where the big matrix's core was. After traveling for more than 10 miles, the pointer of the disc began to tremble slightly. Yao Yao pointed at the air in front of Long Chen. "It's here." Long Chen aimed the disc at the air. With a whoosh, the disc's pointer shot a small light in the air. Suddenly, the invisible air materialized and turned into an air barrier. "This is the big matrix's core, right?" Long Mu said. The tangible air barrier exuded an aura different from Hong Meng's. It had the aura of a matrix. Lin Mengji is really generous. He actually set up a big matrix's core in the entire small spirit world. His ambition is really big. Long Mu continued to say. He clenched his fist and was about to destroy the big matrix's core in front of him. "Wait!" Long Chen stopped Long Mu. He observed the terrain and found that this place was relatively remote. There were very few people coming here. "What's wrong?" Long Yuan asked puzzledly. "Don't destroy it. It's very useful to us. Long Mu, help me hide the aura of this air hub," Long Chen said. Although Long Mu was puzzled, he did as he was told. He quickly took action and used his strongest method to remove the air barrier in front of him. He also put his Hong Meng mark on it. The air barrier in front of them disappeared in an instant and turned into invisible air. Even Long Chen's disc spirit treasure stopped moving and pointed in another direction. It seemed that Long Mu hid the aura of this big matrix's core very well. Let's go and find another hub, Long Chen said and set off again. Under the guidance of the disc spirit treasure in his hand, they came to the location of the second big matrix's core. It was not far from the hub that was hidden by Long Mu. The big matrix's hubs in the small spirit world are interconnected. Long Chen looked at Long Mu. Long Mu's knowledge of big matrices was deeper. He nodded. Then, Long Chen said while squatting on the ground to study the big matrix's core in front of him. The others were very puzzled. Why didn't Long Chen destroy the hub but study it instead? After a while, Long Chen took out his storage ring and pointed it at the air hub in front of him. With a flash of light, the air hub was stored in the storage ring. What do you mean? Long Mu asked. Long Chen smiled mysteriously and said, You'll know when we get out of the small spirit world. Don't worry now. I'm done with my preparations. Next, we'll go and destroy the other big matrix's hubs. Long Chen's words and actions made everyone more and more puzzled. Only Long Mu gradually guessed Long Chen's thoughts. This should be Long Chen's preparation for his big plan. After Long Chen let go of two big matrix's hubs, the rest of the big matrix's hubs that they found according to the disc spirit treasure were all destroyed one by one. In one trip, they destroyed more than 30 big matrix's hubs. Long Chen did not expect that they would proceed so smoothly. Would the people from Lin Meng's polar region let them destroy the big matrix's hubs that they had carefully prepared in Hong Meng's polar region? After all, this time the small spirit world was open to everyone. In addition, Long Chen had seen two mysterious people before. He was afraid that this time it would not be as simple as he thought. Chapter 1823. Meeting the Mysterious Man Again, page 1/1. Just as Long Chen and the others were about to go to the next formation hub, the air in front of them fluctuated and distorted. Then, two figures stepped out. Brat, the two of us have caught you again this time. The two figures had just stepped out when one of them spoke in a sinister tone. It's you two again? What's the matter? Long Chen recognized the two figures. They were the two mysterious men not long ago. Our plan has been exposed. Now everyone knows that the formation hub has been destroyed. What do you think? The other mysterious old man said angrily. You won't believe me even if I tell you. We didn't leak the plan. Long Mu looked calm and crossed his arms. Anyway, we've reached this point in the Lin Meng polar region. Then, we'll try our best to kill you. We're determined to get the small spiritual world. The two mysterious men said in unison. After that, one of them opened his palm, and a spirit treasure appeared. It was a mouthful of blood. It was a bronze bell, the size of a palm, and the patterns on it emitted a strong Hong Meng aura. Today, we've brought the spiritual treasure to suppress you. The two mysterious men sneered and began to activate the spiritual treasure in their hands. Under the full activation of the two mysterious men, the bronze bell in their hands began to grow gradually and turned into a real big bell, emitting a strong Hong Meng aura. Then, the two mysterious men also revealed their own strength. They were two experts in the Hong Meng firmament realm. Together with the mysterious bronze bell spiritual treasure in their hands, their battle strength increased greatly. On Long Chen's side, Hua Zhan and his sister naturally couldn't fight. Only the three Long Chen brothers had the power to fight. Hua Zhan, you take Hua Lei and Hua Yen hide far away. Leave the rest to us, Long Chen said, holding the dragon halberd in his hand. He felt a strong Hong Meng aura from the bronze bell in the hands of the two mysterious men. It was not inferior to the aura of a strong Hong Meng Tianjing expert. It was equivalent to Long Chen and the other two facing three strong Hong Meng Tianjing experts. This is going to be a fierce battle, Long Mu said with a serious look on his face. Leave the old man without the spiritual treasure to me. The old man with the spiritual treasure to you too. Long Mu didn't wait for Long Chen and Long Yuan to respond and rushed out. The power of Hong Meng was spiritual treasure master. Spiritual treasure master, spiritual treasure, 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 spiritual treasure of spiritual treasure, spiritual treasure, 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 spiritual treasure, spiritual treasure. Immediately, Long Chen and Long Yuan had to move and face the mysterious man with the bronze bell. As for Hua Zhan and his sister, they had already left under Long Chen's order. They knew that they couldn't help Long Chen and the other two. If they stayed, they would only be a burden to Long Chen, so they left for the time being. On Long Chen's side, he couldn't wait to stab the mysterious man with the dragon halberd in his hand. Long Yuan also took out the heavenly demon dragon spear, and a demonic real dragon aura spread out. Clang! Long Chen and Long Yuan attacked the mysterious man together. The mysterious man activated the bronze bell in front of him, and the bronze bell became bigger in front of the mysterious man, blocking the attack of Long Chen and his brother for him. Then, the bronze bell dispersed the power of Hong Meng, which was equivalent to the explosion of a Hong Meng Tianjing master. The powerful force knocked Long Chen and Long Yuan back. Ha ha ha, without that boy, how can you two Hong Meng Yuan Jie people fight with me? The mysterious man laughed and said. He didn't show any mercy, and he activated the bronze bell to attack wildly. Brilliant Sun, Long Chen activated his technique, and a red sun rose slowly behind Long Chen, making him look like a god. The dragon halberd in his hand was also burning with flames, and its power increased greatly. The first target of the bronze bell was Long Yuan, who was in the same realm as him. The bronze bell spun in the air, and the power of Hong Meng kept exploding. The bronze bell swept over the ground and the ground collapsed. Long Chen activated his brilliant sun dragon halberd to block, and the bronze bell accurately collided with Long Chen. A powerful force exploded and Long Chen was forced back again. Long Yuan directly attacked the owner of the bronze bell with the sky demon dragon spear. But after all, he was a Hong Meng Yuan Jie, and there was a huge gap between him and the mysterious man. If it wasn't for Long Yuan's physical body and strength, he would have been killed by the mysterious man. Even so, Long Yuan was at a disadvantage after 100 moves, and could only passively face the mysterious man's attack. Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon Art! Long Chen shouted, and an even more powerful force burst out. The power of Hong Meng around him was violent, and the bronze bell was blown away. He rushed to Long Yuan to help Long Yuan. But the bronze bell's defense was amazing, and it rushed in front of Long Chen to block Long Chen. I didn't see it. Although that guy's strength is only at the first level of Hong Meng Yuan Jie, he can fight to a draw with my earth-shaking bell. He is not at a disadvantage at all, and there are even signs of him being crushed. I really underestimated him, the mysterious man said and waved his hand. Then, a powerful force of Hong Meng Qi broke through the air, and Long Yuan in front of him staggered. Your bullshit copper bell can't even withstand a single blow from my master. Long Yuan was furious, and his huge body waved the sky demon dragon spear in his hand, and a demonic aura burst out, forcing the mysterious man to retreat. Long Yuan gradually became violent, and his eyes were scarlet. He kept swinging the sky demon dragon spear in his hand, and every strike could cut through the air and burst out with amazing power. Long Yuan's performance was much stronger than before, and it might be the effect of the demonic dragon bloodline in his body. On the other side, Long Chen was fighting with the intelligent bronze bell, and Long Chen directly showed his full strength. Dragon scales appeared on his body, and he turned into a half-human, half-dragon existence. Long Chen, who showed signs of turning into a dragon, was very powerful, and with the support of the brilliant sun technique and the heaven and earth fire dragon skill, Long Chen, together with the fire dragon shadow around him, faintly crushed the bronze bell. Long Chen stabbed the bronze bell with his dragon halberd, and sparks flew everywhere. The strength that this guy showed is really terrifying. The mysterious man found it difficult to deal with. With his strength, he was actually on par with Long Yuan, who had turned into a berserk state. More than 10 kilometers away, there was the place where Long Mu and another mysterious man were fighting. Hong Meng's aura was fierce, and the sky seemed to be about to collapse. Light flashed, and they were fighting fiercely, but the result was unknown. But according to the mysterious man's perception of Long Mu was also a strong man from Hong Meng Tianjing. Maybe Long Mu could win. In any case, if he and the bronze bell couldn't kill Long Chen and Long Yuan, the other mysterious man would be in danger. Long Mu's strength seemed to be the strongest among the three. You two go to hell. The mysterious man thought of this and exploded. Sogu's reading website. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.